Milwaukee style beer with blueberry, mango, and vanilla. It's something you would like because
More
it's,
of a girl's beer.
yes, it doesn't taste like alcohol.
Oh, 30?
It's like
Right,
sweet,
75.
it's thick,
Yeah.
Is that how much it is?
and it's very fruity.
So,
This
when
is
you
a
get
50 is
mine-
about the cheapest you can get.
They're already sold out, except they sent it out to distribution, and you can still get it on tap at the brewery. But, yeah,
Where's the brewery?
downtown Milwaukee.
Okay.
It's by, like, you know where the Harley Museum and Iron Horse
Yep.
is, it's right,
Okay, that's the only place you can go and get it.
right now. Yeah, we went,
Well,
we
you
went
know
down there
Mike
last
Dover has
Friday.
his own brewery.
So this is the first smoothie style beer that they made, and it was a fantastic hit. Eagle Park and.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They have a brewery in Muskego. It's a bar for these smoothie style beers. So for my craft doing the first one, really well.
Is that, is it your wife?
So she came up with the idea, 6% alcohol and
Oh, 6%, that's more than
a little bit,
White Claw. That's five.
but you don't know it's a beer. It's so
Right,
good.
right.
So kind of fun.
Well, you let me know when I get some.
Well, it's, this was an email she sent me. They had sent it out to basically 44 accounts. So it's Festival Foods, Woodman's, Piggly Wiggly, like in Madison, Watertown, Janesville, Fort Atkinson, all over the place. And they could only get one case. That's only 16 cans because they were so limited. Because it sold like that. Now, there's a
big buck.
no, she doesn't make any money off of it. It's if you have an idea for a beer, you submit it to them, and then they put it out on the internet and let the mob vote on it.
Okay.
And then whoever wins, they'll make that beer. And if it's your beer, you get to come and help make the beer. Then you get a tapping party, so you can invite whatever friends you want, and it's free beer. And then she can drink her beer on tap, as long as it's on tap at the brewery.
So that's what you get.
Yeah, we got two.
Plus her name on the can, plus her picture and the can logo on the wall and the whole bit.
So how did she come up with these ingredients to put in there?
We got it.
Her and her boyfriend go to
Got the number for the budget. I figured out how.
and they really like going to craft beer breweries, so they try all these different beers. So then they came up with, it's a blueberry mango, vanilla, lactose.
And it's.
So it makes it a creamy, kind of a creamy style.
Yeah.
The lactose makes it a creamy beer. So I was there for making the beer.
240 by 600.
I was able to go with her to make the beer, so that was a lot of fun.
Any other stipends of
First batch didn't turn out
Yeah, it was
like
580
they
plus
wanted it to
14,
turn out.
right?
So they
So
took that
595
batch and
total,
turned it
and
into like
If you
a sour,
raise
they
the
call it
stipends
sour.
like you're
That's
proposing,
another style of
600
beer.
plus the 14,600, so
And then they had to
the
redo the
difference is
batch.
19.
So they redid the batch, and then the release party was
Right, yeah.
December
I mean, if you, I printed out the pages that I sent
fourth
you.
or fifth, whatever that Sunday was. That was the release
I think
party.
as long as we
And by
understand the
Friday,
You know,
all the cans that were available at the brewery through pre-sales and everything were gone, sold out.
Or,
I just can't remember.
For her.
So,
Fun.
kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
unless you just want to,
So this, first,
So has she gone to Mike Dole's?
Yeah.
where,
What's it so?
These are my quick and
it's,
dirty.
oh, I've been there, yeah,
The Emporium? Or-
yeah,
Yeah,
I've been there several
he
times.
makes his own too.
And you saw those in Patrick's.
So that's
You
Mike
got them up
Doble's?
finally. Like your computer running the phone.
no, the one station.
Nice, yeah.
And he made, and then he put one in down on 3rd Street, somewhere down there. So he's got two of
The
them.
end.
Mine flies off.
mother and his brother have one in Champa. So he's always traveling. He's always going to these
Did you have any damage over here?
things.
I'm sorry?
Did you have any damage over here?
No.
I had a call from my mother-in-law, my
It's a
my
big
doc.
thing now. Craft breweries are just
It
popping
is.
up like,
It just seems like they're
Came
popping
over,
up all
crushed my
over.
doc.
so Mob Craft,
Put my
apparently they just bought a brewery
boat lift
in
over.
Colorado
They're out
that
for the
was
season,
Yeah.
under
so.
or something.
call the
So they're
insurance
opening
to
up
see
in
if they're gonna do it.
Colorado. They also bought one in Illinois,
Cover docs
a
and-
brewery that went under.
Oh.
And so they're opening up
Well, it's not like they're in the water.
Mob Craft Brewery
You know,
in
it's on
Illinois.
land and tree
And then they
trunks.
bought the old fire station in Waterford.
You might have to have a rider on it in order to have that covered.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah.
Do that doc,
So
Wow.
it was
7-8 grand.
two guys at Whitewater
Well, it was a boat.
went to school at Whitewater, and they made beer in their room all the years because they couldn't go to the bars, and they turned it into a.
Stanley,
They even
Probably had a class for it.
they even took their idea to
Really?
Shark Tank.
Uh,
And Shark Tank said, "Sell your idea
This
to,
is the first time we had a
let's,
tornado in
you know, just
December.
sell your idea to one of the breweries and let them run with
Been a
it."
long time, I would
It's been a
think.
long time, but.
We wanna
I
make
thought-
beer.
yeah.
So, so
7, 8 years
I think
ago, we have
it's a
bunch of
fun
like
story,
St.
and,
Francis
and these guys are
or is that maybe February or something?
doing
Yeah,
very
it was a
well.
winter
That's
tornado.
cool.
Yeah, it was
That
really,
is
it
really
was one of
cool.
these days like this where it got like it was 65 degrees this morning. And I
Well,
was
when you
like,
get any
4 o'clock
extra.
Wasn't that something? And now it's what?
No, I was
Below 30 right now?
I should
And then
buy
about-
shot glasses. We can't-
30
in the
degrees.
morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden
We'll
I
wait
got
for the
smoke, and
camera
I'm
to
like,
get on and then we'll do
Oh,
it.
yeah, Kansas.
Merry Christmas.
I'm like,
came in from Kansas.
And dispatch called me,
Big
like,
Bang
hey,
just
we're
had
getting
their-
a phone call
their
saying there's
Christmas
smoke in
party.
here. And I'm like,
Yeah, there you go.
We didn't have
for
one.
what? He goes, apparently some cans.
That's how come I had to wear,
I'm like, okay.
bring,
I mean, it's
bring
just
Christmas
weird
to the
stuff.
board meeting.
Thank you.
Take one and pass it on.
Oh,
Yeah, we got this big band contract, you know. I think it looks fine. I don't know, we don't win on anything to talk about there.
No,
today,
no,
so,
no issues with it.
yeah, so.
I think the term is good and everything is.
Yeah, it's kind of what we've always discussed. We've been, you and I and Jim and Patrick have been through it many times. You can't find the comment either. The horizon is always full of haze. You know, comet. Leonard, you're supposed to be able to see it this week, but,
Well, last night it was clear,
yeah, but you only have a small
it was
window.
so smoky.
It's like between 5 and 5:30 at night, that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
right below, right underneath Venus.
You can get your eye checked, it's getting better.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, go in there.
You see it, right?
I can't see anything.
It's very red, very red.
Maybe you got the pink eye.
No, it's not pink eye.
Yeah, it's
You got the
red. I
mites.
think it's a broken blood vessel in there.
Oh, you mean like it's in the sclera of the white of the eye?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
really, and it looks like it's
Over in the
splitting.
corner right here,
Who's got it?
Fortner.
right there.
Let's see.
You didn't get the dishes done, did you?
Oh, I get those every once in a while. It's
I wasn't, you know, I didn't think I picked up anything heavy or, you know, sometimes you
No, just
pick
that
up
one.
something
Did you
heavy.
poke your eye or nothing, or?
I don't think so.
You didn't get the dishes.
Shit happens to me.
Oh, yeah, right. You do all the housework, right?
I do.
So you're off of
I cook most
oxygen,
every
Karen?
night.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
Your lungs are in good shape then?
yeah, I'm just having trouble with a couple other things, but my lungs are good.
Okay.
Yeah, I weaned them off after plan commission.
Oh,
Oh, that's. Having
how
a thing up your
irritating
nose and-
carrying
It
that.
dries out your nasal,
My ears had, from all those,
when it gets, cause it's
dog kept pulling on it.
rubbing on the back of your ears.
Is it 7?
It's close.
Taking my cell phone off.
Statement of health.
And then where that-
7:01.
Couldn't look at any emails for 2
forgot to plug my computer in, so it's dead or a doornail.
Here at 6:30, I was the first one here, and still not.
You were the first one here?
No, I never left.
You never left? Oh.
I went home and got something.
Once they accepted one, you're not supposed to.
Let's get her going, I guess.
So always have to.
Yeah, maybe we can get you in and out.
Whatever works for you guys.
Mic check. It's going. Ready, Karen? Good evening. Today is Thursday, December 16th, 2021, 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Village of Vernon Village Board meeting. I will call the Village Board meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Roll call and open meeting law compliance check.
President Carl Fortner,
Present.
trustees Jim Solani,
Present.
Dan DeGrave, Marie Kumershek, and Lorene Dashik. Mr. President, note for record, you do have a quorum of your village board. Also note for the record, you are in full compliance with the open meetings law.
Thank you. Public comments. One member of the public, no comment. Village President announces possible closed session, Wisconsin Statutes 19.851E, deliberating of negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. More specifically, the contract from Accurate Assessment Services 2022 Department of Public Works Director Contract, 2022 Building Inspector Contract, 2022 Vernon Fire Chief Contract, and Intergovernmental Agreement pursuant to 66.0301 of the Wisconsin statutes between the Village of Vernon and the Village of Big Bend for fire and EMS services, and 19.851C considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, more specifically the Deputy Treasurer. In closed session will be the Village of Vernon Board of Trustees and the Village Clerk Administrator. Motion requires a roll call vote. No action will be taken in closed session. For the benefit of the public and the board, I put this on in the event that we do have an item on one or more of the contracts to discuss. If we don't, we can skip that contract, or we can get whatever we need to do on the contract in open session and not go into closed session for that particular contract. And the same way with the Deputy Treasurer, there has been some changes there that you probably received on your email about hiring a Deputy Treasurer. So perhaps maybe we won't have to go into closed session later. We'll see, but it's there in the event that we need to. So with that, we will go to the agenda. The first item is Resolution 2021-16, resolution to establish a bond schedule as authorized by the Village of Vernon Municipal Code. This is our schedule of fines and forfeitures. Our Attorney Macy would say it's forfeitures. You've seen this. We've seen this before. And let me grab it so we can try to stay organized. We passed something in July for our joint municipal court, and then on the, as we were alerted that some of our traffic forfeitures were so low and not at the same level as other municipalities, I think the board gave direction to take a look at that and get them up to what the other municipalities in the surrounding area were charged, and come back with the schedule. I looked at the schedule. There were some typos on it, and so I think I've identified them all, and if other people have them, have typos on them, please let us know. The typos that I have, and I can I mean, we can go through them quick. On page 2, the fireworks, this board had set the amount at $1,000 per, whether it's first, second, or third, it's $1,000. That comes straight out of our ordinance. And so that, it says 100, but it should be 1,000 per. The refuse and recycling carts says on the new schedule 100, 150, and 200. In July, we just kept that at $100. This is across the board. And so, we could certainly go something different on the schedule, but keeping it consistent with our direction and what we had agreed to, seems to me those should be back to the way they were in both cases. And then on the same page, I saw unauthorized sales in village parks. The numbers are 500, 750, and 500 across the board, but we had set those in July at 250, 375, and 500 across the board. So I'm assuming that, again, is just a typo, and then the line below it, smoking in village parks. The third offense, we had set 200 and it says 1,000, so, for smoking. So I would say, to me, it should have been, those should be the same as what we had. Now, that doesn't mean we can't change them right now on the spot, but I just wanted to point those out on the schedule so that our schedule, is correct. I don't know if anybody else proofed it and saw it, but otherwise, I think we ought to, entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2021-16, a resolution to amend the schedule of deposits pursuant to section 1-7 of the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes 800.037 with that schedule as changed as I just announced.
I'll make that motion with those corrections.
Any further discussions or further corrections? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Again, I have those if we were going fast, Next up is the Resolution 2021-18, a resolution to establish schedule of fees for 2022 as authorized with the Village of Vernon Municipal Code. That is our fees that we charge residents for various services that we provide. Our fire chief is here, so we could, one of the items that we were stuck on as a board was the fees for ambulance, paramedic, and ALS and BLS services. But before we get, and the rate differential, I think where we were stuck is whether there should be a rate differential, and if so, how much between residents and non-residents. And historically, we had that differential. Yeah. So that to me was kind of okay, let's figure that out right now and get the schedule and pass the resolution if at all possible. But before we get there, I did see on the schedule for chargebacks, Village Operations Director, the 183 per hour. Karen, do you see that? Yeah, for both, and I saw a rate schedule that was increased to 187 this year.
Okay.
So.
We've never used an operation.
Yeah, we never have. It's always been, it's Mr. Ludwig over at Foth.
Oh, yeah, we have, but only in rare.
Very, very rare cases, but I thought, well, we should get that updated.
Okay.
So with that update on that, and if there's any other updates to the schedule as presented, and then we'll get to the ambulance EMT transport.
I had only one question. We specify resident or non-resident. Do we need to define what we mean by that, knowing what we got going with our neighboring communities?
Like resident of the Village of Vernon.
Right.
Maybe put that as a note, or.
What about residents of the Village of Big Bend or of Waukesha,
Okay, now.
where we're billing them the same?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's not only what I just,
Yes.
but also the non-residents saying that if we're under contract to provide it at residence rates, that's the rate that applies.
Right. I didn't know if we had to put something in there that
Right.
includes them at our resident rate.
Right. Right, and I think, I can't remember what our Waukesha agreement says right off the top of my head, and I didn't bring that along.
Weren't they supposed to bring it up?
They were supposed to bring it up to our rates, whatever our resident rates. If we're up there transporting, we're supposed to charge their resident rates. It says that, but they're supposed to bring theirs up to ours.
But we were gonna charge them as a resident, if I remember correctly.
That's what I
Yes, yes,
was thinking, yeah.
yep. And the Village of Big Bend, I think it's,
In the contract, it referenced that we would charge them as residents as well, just like they're our own.
our residents, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, green side, blue side, same rate, so,
It's just that anybody else reading that wouldn't know that.
right. So maybe we should add
I don't know
that.
if that's
Let me
good
just-
or bad, but
Well, it would be good to add that, and maybe the way you add that is residents mean the residents of the Village of Vernon, and non-residents, you could say it's a non-resident rate unless subject to a contract.
Right, it could be.
You know, right?
Patients could be billed as residents if they are village residents, or they're providing service to a contracted, or,
right. Wouldn't even have to name the,
right. No,
Right.
a-
Could separate.
A contracted area.
right.
And, because for us, it's more of a logistical problem we have to deal with the building company where we tell them. But our people have a tab that's on the computer that it says resident, non-resident. So they're supposed to hit that to identify for the building company, this person is a resident versus a non-resident.
So we could just say resident rates applies to Village of Vernon residents and residents of other communities. Making this up. Yeah, to be invoiced at resident rates per contract with the Village of Vernon. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Make sense, Chief?
Yes, sir?
So I scribbled it down, so we'll make that change. And we'll put that somewhere on this schedule as a footnote or on the same page, or what's a little asterisk or something. So then we get,
I have one other question.
okay,
On this fee schedule, there's certain items that are in red. Are those the changes from last year, or what does the red mean?
right, those are updated numbers, I'm pretty
We'll
sure.
Look at if they
Yeah.
want to make any changes, either they recommended by Vince or Alex or.
Right, the ones in red were the ones changed from the prior year, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. And you can see, most of our fees stayed the same, didn't raise them. Park and Recs didn't raise them.
I think
So-
I put the $15 on the lots because they pay an impact fee, for the certified, the conceptual certified survey map, and, we add $15 to that, which I don't know how you could justify, especially, on a conceptual and a certified, a certified survey twice, a double fee.
Concept certified map, final certified map. Well, yeah, it's 15 per lot on each one.
I mean, if they come with a conceptual and it doesn't go, why should they pay for a lot fee if they're gonna get a lot, they're gonna get hit $500 and some dollars on a new lot.
Well, when the idea is, it's $15, well,
Or else take it out of the conceptual.
well, yeah, people come in for conceptuals, they should charge per lot, and if it goes to final, then maybe take it off the final, but,
Maybe a 15, but a conceptual, it's just an idea, and the plan commission might say, so they're paying $15 for nothing.
yeah,
Besides all their legal fees.
but there's gonna be a difference between a CSM with one lot or two lots and 30 lots, I guess, to
And they
look
pay for
at.
each lot.
Yeah, they pay for each lot, so
You can do whatever, I just.
it's been that way for a while, I think, so, forever. And I think that's the justification, on the CSMs and the finals, 1 or 2 lots, it's a lot different than
That's
30.
fine. I just wanted to raise it. Whatever you guys decide to do, you do.
Yeah, Jim, you're on the plan commission. I know it's gonna be, it's more complicated. I mean, you
Right.
come in and the more lots, the more, and I don't wanna just say, well, we'll just have a base fee and $250, doesn't matter how many lots. Well, there's CSMs with 1 lot or 2, and then the
Like you
CSMs
say,
with
30
30.
lots is a big deal.
It's a big deal, right? Right.
And then if it's a big parcel, then they get just a conversion fee of $3,000-$4,000.
But that's under state law,
Yeah,
and that's because they were paying $1 an acre before.
the farmer was, yes.
Yes, the farmer was. Or the developer who owns the land, as the case may be. Which is maybe not here, but more typical throughout the state. Keep it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so any other questions before we get to,
Did we need a motion?
well,
That's once a week because
yeah, let's go through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to get all the others done, and then, so what you'll see, this is all on page 3 of 6, are the new rates for BLS, ALS, on-scene care, base rates, ALS 1, ALS 2. And fire department and LifeQuest provided information earlier, and I think that was in our packet somewhere, so. And I know the board had discussed a rate differential. We don't need one. It's just, I think but I wanted to make sure we were making a conscious decision, because LifeQuest said, oh, it should be the same, resident or non-resident, be done. I just wanted to make a conscious decision by the board, if that's the way we wanted to go, that's the way we wanted to go, as opposed to having a differential. I know we talked in the board before, and there was some consensus building that there ought to be some, rate differential, because the residents are paying taxes here,
Right.
whether they ride in an ambulance or not.
and the residents do call and say, what am I paying taxes for? And then we explain, you are paying taxes, but.
You
So
might
they
pay
do-
more taxes.
Yeah. Right. But, fees, Macy, our attorney Macy would say, the fees have to represent the cost of service. You're not making a profit off
Right.
of this, but given we're going to get to the wages in the budget once again for the fire department, and you'll see the fees in the budget are far less than the 600,000 of salaries or better that we're paying. The fees are 220, we budgeted 225 this year. I don't know if we're even going to make that, and 275 next year. Thousands. So I think they're well underneath, let's say, the cost of providing service. And that's just the labor. That's not even the maintenance. That's not even all the supplies you see in payables that come through on a regular basis. They got to restock the ambulances, those costs.
Oh, we never intended to be revenue neutral on that one.
No, I don't think you
On
can.
fire service, right?
Right, you can't.
Yeah.
The taxpayers are going to have to pick up something just to
Right.
have it available. So, you see on the page, you can see the numbers in black, which are 2021 rates. The numbers in red are out of LifeQuest for 2022.
That's what they recommended.
That's what they recommended, based on their study.
Right. And I think, and there are a couple duplicates in here, but I don't know, we just gotta figure out what we want to.
Yeah, I noticed they didn't touch the ALS 1 rates, which was kind of odd. Is that right? Thought they did.
That's what they had sent Karen to.
Right.
For suggestions for rates.
Right.
That's the same amount that the Waukesha charges.
Oh, those 975 and the,
Their recommended rates, because they did that. And I think.
Oh, yeah.
We had a discussion about that a couple meetings back, someone had questioned about, they really didn't do local, when you guys asked about, because it was like, some people around Eau Claire,
right. That's right, they did like the city of Eau Claire or something,
Right,
yeah.
Those are people, I don't know if they were comparable to us in terms of size or how that, I never got an answer on that, because I asked.
Yeah,
But when their team sent this over, these were the numbers that they suggested, and that was what we were gonna talk about it, to figure out, because just gotta figure out what's acceptable and what's not. 'Cause I know that people who get help are not, you get any bill, they're not gonna get happy. I can tell.
well, a lot of these bills are paid by third party.
Right, but,
But-
I can speak from personal experience now, what's starting to happen is some of these third-party insurance companies are starting to try to muscle us to say, oh, you were overcharged by the fire department for your ambulance service, and we're only gonna pay, X amount of dollars, and then basically, we're going to tell them we're not paying any more, and it's your responsibility. Well, now that puts the patient in a bad position, because we're looking at differences of sometimes $500, $600, $700, $800, which is a huge impact to someone who could be on limited income, or doesn't have the ability to plan for that bad day, or whatever their particular financial circumstances. So, I think that, and we're starting to see more phone calls from these, like these a company called Navigator. Oh, we want to negotiate with you. You're not an in-network provider. So there are no ambulance companies in the state of Wisconsin that are in-network providers. That's a fallacy that the insurance company tries to use, pushing back if your plan says you got an in and out of network deductible or co-pay or whatever. Now they push it on you to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, our contractor rate would be $716 and the bill is $1355. You owe the difference. No, you don't get to dictate to, that we are or not. And we've never been approached by any insurance company to say, hey, would you like to set up a contract with us? Because I've had some very direct discussions with some of these people, and they have no concept of what you're even talking about. First thing they told us is that we charge, that our rates are higher than comparable departments around us, or customary charges around us, which is absolutely inaccurate, because City of Waukesha charges $1,600 for a flat rate. We're at, what are we at, $1,200 something, $1,100, depending on one call, $1,200. So we're $400 cheaper, but yet this letter says that we're overcharging you. So I think there's a lot of, I guess, deception that's going on. And then they come back and say, well, we're not gonna pay you. And then it falls on the patient's back, and that's not right either. Is it on? Is that better? So, I guess we just gotta come up with what you want in terms of numbers.
So, Alex, if I may, non-resident, is there any collection issues, or are they a higher collection, risk by any chance versus resident?
Well, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that if we have a resident who doesn't pay their bill, and it goes through the process, which can get to 180 days,
Right,
you have the ability to put that onto their tax roll.
Okay, but
A non-resident, we have to go after them, but there's another level of the collections through LifeQuest where I think they farm it up to another service.
right.
And then they go after them, but when they get that money back, they take more money. It's one of those.
exactly.
So, it's one of those things that I think LifeQuest does a good job. They're to me, they seem to be very responsive to issues that people have or questions that they have. And I think that we have a pretty, I don't even know what our collection rate is right now, because we haven't gotten a report from them in a while, but,
It varies.
it kind of.
Varies month to
depends on how
month.
the trends go and things, but I think they do a good job of staying on it and communicating with the patient. I know they've worked out payment plans with people, and, and again, we don't feel good when we have to tell a resident, hey, you have to pay something, because you do pay taxes. And I think that's where our philosophy of charging a non-resident is a little bit more appropriate than, but again, that's your decision.
Yeah, I would think the recovery rate on non-residents is lower than residents, simply for what he just what he outlined.
Well,
How, yeah.
That's just another justification
For a little rate difference, right. How, City of Waukesha in our area here, area being is always the highest. Some would say, I mean, they're head and shoulders highest, not just marginally highest. How do these rates that LifeQuest proposed compare to like Lake Country and Western Lakes and, New Berlin, some of our more reasonable neighbors?
So I haven't done a rate study per se, but I know that we're all kind of in the ballpark. We might be a little bit below on some things and maybe a little bit higher on other things. But I think in general, we're all kind of in that ballpark. I know that Rochester charges, I think, $1,500 for ALS transport. So some of those departments that are kind of our size are probably right in that ballpark as well. Our loaded mileage, I think, might be $1 or $2 per mile higher, but I think that's because we've gone through and we're reviewing this now versus what some people have as existing stuff from last year. So I think we're in the ballpark.
Alex, how long have we had LifeQuest?
2 years?
Yeah,
What?
2 years, 2 years.
Probably 2 years.
Finishing up too, right?
Yeah, I think we're in our second year now. We made the switch from EMS billing,
Yep.
who was very, very dysfunctional. And I've noticed that the level of customer service, the attention we get from LifeQuest versus EMS billing is night and day. I think we've done well for the village by contracting with LifeQuest. I think they do a good job. They're very responsive and they communicate. We get a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails about, hey, there's a question on a ambulance report or a bill or whatever. So we get a lot of dialogue between them, where with EMS we didn't have that. And EMS was just train wreck.
Less residential complaints also with
Yes,
LifeQuest.
right.
Their customer service is much better as far as explaining a bill or what has happened.
For non-resident, do they have TRIP anymore?
Yes. Yes, but it's not used very often. But yes, we are signed up with TRIP, yes.
Okay.
That's
that
the-
is one
that's
way-
the tax intercepting thing, right?
Yeah, that's the state,
Right.
yeah.
As far as the specific numbers, I mentioned that before, that the ALS1 resident bundled base and non-resident bundled base didn't change or didn't propose to be changed from 975 and 1,200 yet. The BLS resident bundled base and non-resident bundled base, they're both at 1,200. I don't know how we can say BLS resident bundled base rate is 1,200 and yet the ALS rate is 975.
I don't know how they came up with that.
How ALS is advanced level of care, not basic. I mean, just so everybody knows, right? BLS, basic life, ALS, advanced life, right? So you would think ALS would be, because of the paramedic and the advanced life support, would be higher. I don't know how much higher, but higher. So yeah, that's one that I was scratching my head on. It's like, wow, why? Somebody says, well, it should be about the same rate. Okay, or closer in rates, that's fine. Big increase on on-scene care, and I think, I always thought those numbers were low because sometimes that's all on-scene care is, critical in many cases, don't you think?
And again, the definition, and I think this is where things get a little bit confusing, is that the definitions that are on here, on-scene care is a situation where you do not transport.
Right.
So maybe you go somewhere and we have someone who needed to be helped up. We don't charge for that.
Right, and we haven't charged for that
We
for
haven't
long.
charged for that. Now, if a non-resident has that type of a request, there was a fee for that because they're non-residents and they have not done anything to support their fire department through taxes. And that rationale, I think, kind of makes sense. An ALS resident bundled on-scene care would typically be if we had a diabetic or someone who needed some medicine, and we show up, we take care of their problem, and they opt not to go to the hospital. That's a common occurrence for us, especially with people who have diabetes. We've had people who their blood sugar drops. They become to the point where they're disorientated, maybe unconscious. We get there. We do our advanced care. We start an IV. We give them some glucose, and we wake them up. They're usually okay. They sign a refusal. They get something to eat, and they don't go to the hospital. That's a pretty typical call that we have. And then there has been a small charge for that because we do use some supplies. So
Well, and you have provided a very valuable service and used supplies.
right.
And they should be charged something.
Right. And the alternative is if you go to the hospital, what's it?
Well,
You know,
yeah,
in
it'll be
ER
5 times that
yeah,
at a blink.
yeah. So you're getting a good deal with that. The ALS 1 and ALS 2 are basically defined by the amount of interventions that you do typically. And ALS 1 is, I'm not a Medicare billing expert, but I believe it's 2 or 3 interventions. And then when you go above a certain amount of interventions, then it becomes an ALS 2 call. And that's strictly a billing component of what LifeQuest does. They look at the form, they evaluate it, they say, okay, this is, and then they develop that invoice based on what we did in our report for care. So we don't check a box and say ALS 1, ALS 2, just so you guys know. Paramedic incept is still what it is. Non-resident BLS non-transport service charge, that's where we show up again. That's for a non-resident who has something, maybe they're at a family member's house, whatever, they have a medical event or need help or whatever, that we will come and help them. The mileage has also been differentiated between a resident and a non-resident, because again, our philosophy was that you've already supported the fire department by paying your taxes. You've helped pay for the ambulance and the maintenance and the vehicle and the people. So I think there should be somewhat of a consideration for that. I mean, it's not a lot, but to me, it's more of the intent of that.
There is no standard, like the government does for reimbursement,
No.
where it's X amount of dollars or cents per mile for mileage?
Not yet. I'm surprised the federal government hasn't come up with that yet. But
Right.
as of right now,
Okay.
because when you look at the grand scheme of the whole country, there's different costs are associated with different regions and different things, and everyone provides service for Medicare and Medicaid patients, and so there's still some flexibility there to say, hey, it costs us $22 a mile versus maybe in California it's $30 a mile or $35 a mile because fuel is more expensive, registrations, all those different things. So we still have that ability to recommend that, and that's one of the few things that I've noticed through going through and with our billing is that's never questioned. Doesn't seem like that's ever questioned. So I mean, a $5 difference in mileage, is potentially about $100 for a trip to the hospital.
Yeah.
It helps generate revenue for the village.
Okay.
All right, so how do we get to the finish line being setting these rates? Should we look at the rates and then talk about differential? Should we just do both differential? First of all, I suppose, should there be a differential or not, or not? You're saying,
I would
Jim,
say
it's
yes.
I would say yes.
Yeah, okay, so then, all right, how much? The question, and last year it ranged from 75, 200, 175, 225, 175, or 500, depending on which category you fell in. And not necessarily, those rates didn't necessarily correspond to the same percentage or general percentage,
That's
8 or
what-
10 or
that's where I
12%.
was headed
It
next.
was just at a dollar amount, so we could kind of weight it based on, I'm not saying to the dollar, but, to the $25 something. amount and keep the rates at, something, 10%, 15%, 12%, something.
Exactly what I was thinking, yep.
And I'm not sure why they recommended the same amount.
Other than ease of billing, there's that,
LifeQuest?
yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and I'm sure some of the communities don't have a differential that they looked at, although I think most of them do,
To me, it seemed like most of them did.
yeah.
I know, and again, I was doing some research on this, and I came across what the city of Chicago charges for an ambulance ride. $2,500.
Yeah.
If they can get there.
So,
Well, the city of Waukesha, I think, doesn't differentiate. I don't know that Lake Country does either.
no, but
So-
but in regards to city of Waukesha, I believe they do have a soft billing policy.
Wow.
They
Yes.
can't
That's,
collect it, then it becomes very problematic. And we had a lot of issues in the past with the whole issue and discussion about write-offs. And that caused a ton of, right, Karen, that caused a ton of confusion with trying to decipher a monthly report on what we did and how much we actually made and wrote off. And it was very challenging to try to figure out exactly what we were actually netting because of the write-offs. And then you budget, Howard talked about, budgeting that write-off amount as an expense. And it's just, it gets to be a little bit more confusing.
One other question.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever looked at, aren't there like private ambulance companies like in the Milwaukee area? Do you know where they kind of, what the range is compared to local fire departments?
There are three major companies in the city of Milwaukee area. Bell, Paratech, which was bought by another company, Midwest Medical, which is a non-local company, Curtis Ambulance, and they have been, I think they have a lot of different rates because they do a lot of different stuff than what we do. They are a lot more based on interfacility stuff, which is different, the ability to go after different rates for Medicare and Medicaid and critical care transports and a lot of things like that. And they don't like to share their stuff with people. So, because they are a direct competition of ours. There's some areas of the country and in the state where they have tried to kind of undermine the local fire department to generate revenue. So there's always been kind of that adversarial type philosophy, and they don't like to share their stuff with us.
Carl, where do these rates, I've seen the $1,000, let's say, for the first item here. For this upcoming year, what was that rate? So how much is LifeQuest recommending as a change?
The numbers in black are from 21, and the numbers in red are,
Off to the side?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
right. Now, we did get this Alex, this,
Yeah, I didn't understand it.
yeah, this revenue impact summary, and we kind of looked at it during budget time. And, the amount of increases shown on the schedule doesn't necessarily correspond to the increase on this fee schedule. So it's a little, it was always confusing to me, and maybe this was the amount of increase which they expected to collect as opposed to charge.
So I guess one thing we could do is maybe if you wouldn't have, because we have done fees after the first of the year, we've had changed fees and we've been able to go retroactive because of the billing process. Would it behoove us to have Chip, their is the vice president, or their rep for us? Would it maybe behoove us to have him come in and meet with Karen and maybe one or two of you guys to explain everything so we can make an educated decision that way? Because it seems that what we got really didn't help clarify where we maybe should be. And we could set something up for either right after the first of the year or the holidays, or I could see if he's available before. And he would come down and meet with us.
fees can't be retroactive.
Right, so it'd only be prospective.
Yes.
So
And
if we
the-
got it done the first part of the year, it'd be a very, very,
Well, it depends on how many people, you know,
If you did it on the 6th, they'd have to be posted on the 7th, and then they don't go into effect till they're actually posted.
so I mean, if we were
So we'd
delayed
lose
by
10 days
changing these
maybe.
fees for a week or so, I don't think it would be a big impact to us.
And City of Waukesha's fees are a lot higher than.
Yeah, apparently the info we had is inaccurate, because Karen said that a BLS call for the city of Waukesha is $1,900, and an ALS call is $2,200 plus mileage, correct?
Right.
So, and that, on paper, that looks great. We'd love to be able to charge that, but the reality is when someone gets that letter from the insurance company, they say, you're responsible for a large portion of that. I think now we complicate the issue. And I don't feel like we're necessarily helping our citizens out like we should be. And again, we understand that there's a cost for providing service. We just don't want to have the perception or that we're trying to make money off of people's misfortunes.
Well, I would rather make a bigger differential for the non-residents if it came to, rather than raising the cost to our residents, to help cover costs.
so you're saying the differential should be greater.
Yeah, which was opposite of what I came in here thinking. I was thinking maybe 10% might be a reasonable number and just make that across the board.
Right.
This amount for resident and non-resident is 10% more. Now maybe 10% isn't enough. It just depends on where we think those numbers should be.
Dan?
Or, if you look at this differently, if this is what they're recommending, maybe we offer the residents a discount. And we look at
Well, we could give the residents a 10% discount.
a discount, because they are paying taxes, and how would that relate back and tie back? And that's something that you can also sell. Hey, these are the rates, however, being a Vernon resident, you get a discount.
Yeah, it's 85% or 90% or 80% or whatever the number is. Marie, you got any?
Either way,
Rather than saying non-residents are more, if these are kind of recommended rates and they've gone up substantially, maybe the idea is to offer a discount, in a sense, a discounted rate. It's the
Same
same
thing.
thing, but
If
termed a
you,
little
it is exactly the
more
same
of a
thing.
selling
If you go one up or down. So what would you consider a non-resident? Because your rate now, we're gonna be taking care of 3 communities.
So,
Well, two and Waukesha is only on a very limited basis.
right, well, right. I think that if we're providing service to a community, like, if, as an example, if we move forward with providing service to Big Bend, they will be treated just like our residents, because they are our residents. And they will pay the same as someone who, lives in front of a green sign. I think like Carl said, a green sign or blue sign don't matter anymore. You're paying the same. You're a resident, we'll take care of you. They're also gonna realize the benefit that there's differences between what the billing is of what Big Bend has now versus what we do, where we don't charge and they do for certain things. So that might be an added benefit. So I would say if it's a contracted area, we treat them as a resident.
But then what communities or where else do you go besides the contracted areas?
Everywhere.
It's mutual aid, right, on
Or
mutual aid.
We go mutual aid all over the place. But typically when we go mutual aid to another community, if we go to New Berlin or we go to Waterford or we go to Tishigan or McGuanago, when we provide service to that patient, they get billed as a non-resident, because we are going to another community, we're taking and helping them out, and they, as we talked about, have not supported our fire department at all. Now, someone can make the argument, well, they're paying taxes there, but that, their department couldn't provide service, so they had to call someone else. So that's how we typically bill them as a non-resident.
So most of your calls are in our area.
Yeah, I would think,
We get calls from people that are visiting a resident, we get ambulance bills, people that are on 164 National Avenue if
Yeah,
there's an
car
accident.
accident.
Car
Yeah,
accidents, right,
Okay,
those are all, a
those
lot
are
of those are
non-residents.
non-residents.
okay.
right. ES 164,
People in the parks, sometimes there's
Parks.
park accidents and they respond, they're not our residents, but they provide the service.
Okay. So yes, they should pay more. What percentage? I mean, if you, excuse me, if you lower the residents or up the non-residents, to me, it's a horse apiece. What's the difference?
right, it's just, well, it's in part semantics, but I prefer, we have to be able to justify our rates, so you justify the rate, the non-resident rate, and if we want to grant a discount, because to me, that's the better way to do it, to justify it, because we don't want a non-resident to claim, hey, I'm getting overcharged. So that's, I agree with trustee DeGrave, it's a better way to say it, but maybe for a different reason, but the same result. Lorene?
How are residents, Vernon residents charged, say you're busy and you have to call in Quantico?
Their charges, I'll make the assumption that they are charged as a non-resident by whatever fire department transports them. So it goes back and forth.
Right, now that person has a bigger legitimate complaint than,
And that was one of the considerations we had when we talked about the working agreement with
Waukesha.
was that we don't want to get into an environment where, Vernon showed up and they charged me $400 more
right,
versus what actually would have been more than that, versus what they were charging. And that's why we wanted to have consistency between the communities for the billing.
right,
And it
and,
doesn't matter what it says on the side of the door, it's the same charges.
right. And vice versa.
Yes.
We have to charge, what Village of Waukesha was charging the Vernon residents would say, well, let me get the town line, you can pick me up there, it's cheaper. That can't work either. Right? It goes both ways, as I explained at one of those meetings. Okay, so, trying to get to the finish line here, if we can get the rates done tonight, we can get them done tonight. If we can't, it'll be 10 days, we'll get them back on the 6th. But if we're gonna do that, then I would say we're gonna do the rest of the rates, adopt the schedule with everything else in there as of the first of the year, leave the fire department rates the same, and then have an amended schedule just on those on January 6th, if that's where we wanna go tonight.
I would personally prefer getting her done tonight. Be honest with you. And with the assumption of the plan that going forward, we would actually, either we do it or have somebody do it, get our neighbors and the information from the locals so that we're so that we can justify that we're in the ballpark, let's say.
Didn't the chief from Quantico send us this thing? I think the chief from the village of McGuanago sent me, they were working on a New Berlin. I'll see if I can get that.
Because we don't really base these rates on, I'll call it scientific data. The rate per hour and then how many hours it takes, average, and all that stuff. They're somewhat pulled out of the air to a degree, right?
Well, and if we actually did that, we'd probably be much higher than where we're.
I would assume so, right? We could get revenue neutral on this thing.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, it would not be a very popular.
But that and so in my mind, I think it would be better to base it on
And you should read
more
the.
local costs.
LifeQuest did provide a report an analysis report, so I should get that to the board, the Village of Maguanago updated study of, and then you could do that on the 6th, Carl. You could do
Yeah,
the-
we could. And I would like this, because this revenue impact study, when we were doing the budget, I actually paid attention to it when we talked about the revenue side. And we increased the revenue side by $50,000, mostly because here's the revenue impact, 56. And we didn't pull that number completely out of the air. Plus, we knew if Big Bend was on board, we'd have more fees because of the service contract with Big Bend, based on those two things. And this is inconsistent with these numbers here.
Well,
That's the part that I scratch my head.
That's why I didn't understand that one.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head. Well, yeah, I understood this better than this, but either way,
Oh,
the numbers were inconsistent is what we're saying, and you're saying the
Right.
same thing. And, the other thing on the fee schedule too, I mean, you can't be charging ALS bundled on-scene care recommended at $1,400 and yet transport at $975 and $1,200. That doesn't make sense to me either.
No, that
That
was
can't be
what-
right.
I don't know how that came to be with
Yeah.
getting incorporated in this, if it was just missed, or if it was something that they overlooked, or, because, yeah, you're right. If anything, you would say that the $1,400 and the $1,200 rates,
Those should be $1,400,
right.
shouldn't they be?
Well, one's a ALS resident, non-resident, they were the same,
Right.
and there was no difference between a resident versus a non-resident there. But if you look at the ALS one, what I would call the existing ALS one transport rate, there was a difference of $225,
Right.
which was what, about 20%?
Yeah, that's what it was, about 20, yeah.
So that to me makes more sense than that.
Right.
And I guess
Yeah, that would be more like $1,225 and $1,400 for the new rates there,
right,
right?
so-
Or something like that. But as far as the number of calls, let me make this point too. As far as the number of calls and what's actually billed, by far and away, according to this revenue impact summary page, it's BLS on-scene care are the number one calls. And then it's kind of a tie, ALS 1 versus BLS, 1. So those, I mean, there's 5 here and 6 here, but the impacts on the revenues those are the big ones. I think those are the rates that we got to get right the best we can. The others, yeah, if we're off a little, well, it's 5 times, 6 off. I'd prefer to get it done tonight, although I'm getting, the more we get into this, the more I'm leaning toward, well, let's get it done right instead of just get it done. But that doesn't mean we can't get it done and then revise it later either, but.
Well, that was gonna be my question. Could we work it out and then modify it after we have
A better powwow with these guys?
a meeting with LifeQuest to say, look, we have some questions, so that we get it done, or is that 10 days?
See, I wouldn't feel bad, Chief, if it was only 10 days. I'm just afraid it's going to take longer. Some of this stuff drags on too long, as far as I'm concerned, as far as, this kind of a thing goes.
My goal would be to have a meeting between now and the end of the year.
And it's ready to go
Have it
January
ready-
6th.
So it is ready to go on the 6th. That's the drop dead date of making sure we can't say we're gonna table it and then this is gonna, I don't wanna say fester, but this is gonna go on until April. This is something
Right.
that I want it done. I would like to have it done so on January 6th, we know where we are. We have an accurate plan for what we wanna do or why we wanna do it, some justification, rationalization. And then we say on the 6th, here are the fees based on the input we've had from you guys, from the fire department and the billing company. We've worked cooperatively together. Here's what we're gonna charge, and
Here's our rates
here's our
that,
rates for 2000.
you're gonna recommend rates out of that meeting and, board members can be part of this meeting or on the
Absolutely.
call.
I would love that.
But the direction, if we're gonna go that route and suspend it I would like to have direction, we want a rate differential of 10%, 15%, 12.5, to the nearest $25, some direction so that when you come back,
Absolutely.
that we have numbers ready to go.
Ready to go, right?
And now somebody might quibble with it, and we might make a little change, but
someone's
I
not
want to
gonna be
know,
happy, but-
yeah, I mean, I want a final product here that we can approve.
So if we can put that into a motion, the only other issue that I had was you had mentioned or were recommending that we approve all the rest of the stuff on there and just keep the, ALS,
The
fire
fire,
department out, as opposed to.
is the same as 2021.
As of, opposed to just approving them all right now and being done with it, and then making the change, and we're only gonna change the fire department ones, potentially.
Well, that'd be the other way to do it.
The only reason I would almost prefer that is because then, if it does take longer to get the answer, we got something already, that's it. you know.
Lined in.
So, would you entertain the idea to looking at what was recommended by LifeQuest and all, is that we, between the first of the year and when this is resolved, which will be the 6th, would there be opposition or would there be support to say that the fees that are suggested to increase for a non-resident would take effect? And then the fees that are currently in place for our residents will remain as those numbers until we meet and we work out a plan?
Or looking at the numbers, what if you just said $200 less for a resident? Because that means the first two lines, 1,000 and 800, 1,400 and
1,200.
1,200 and 1,000. To me, that just makes sense. I can justify in my mind, hey, resident gets a $200 discount, no matter what the service. And you're almost there on the ALS one as well. Rather than working with percentages, you get round numbers, and especially since LifeQuest is recommending these rates, to me, that's a recommended rate. So I'm just throwing that out.
We could get her done tonight,
Exactly.
saying that.
Exactly. Because once you start getting into percentages, then it gets confusing.
Yeah, the percentages are
Move
gonna
to
be
decimal
roughly the
points,
same.
simple.
They're roughly gonna be the same at 200.
Right, well, and actually.
200 flat, 200.
If you, the only change that really would be made would be that would be that ALS 1 rate for the resident versus non-resident.
Yeah, we'd have to change
Figure
that
one out,
rate,
Call it a day.
but, I'm still confused about the revenue impact, where, okay, let's just take that ALS. They're saying the amount of increase is 425 and 200. This sheet has no increase. Well, what is it? I mean, you add those increases in here, and the non-resident rated be 1,400, 1,200 plus 200. Then you go to ALS resident on scene. They're recommending increases of 225 and 25 on the revenue impact. You go here on the sheet, they're much more than that. They're saying it should be 1,000 and 1,000. I think there's something lost and something happened here. And ALS 2, resident, non-resident, ALS 2. ALS 2, they're saying 375 and 200. Those numbers, 1,600 and 1,600, match up. BLS resident, non-resident, BLS. 400, that must be, okay, that's 400, so that would be, those numbers match up, 1,200 and 1,200. BLS resident on scene care, 345. 300, BLS on screen. 300 would be 625, no, 745, I don't know why, or non-resident, sorry. It'd be 445, sorry, and 625. That doesn't make any sense to me. Those numbers, the BLS resident on scene goes up by 300 and the non-resident 45. That flips the numbers
That's
backwards.
Backwards, yeah.
Yeah. So that can't, to me, that can't be right. That can't be read on the revenue impact
Right.
statement. So I don't know what they mean by that. Maybe they just mean everybody should be at 625 or 700. I don't know. As opposed to the $1,000 they show on the schedule, right? And then mileage, $5. Yeah, that goes up to 27. The schedule in our packet here is a duplicate. The mileage per loaded mile is in there twice, but there is a $5 differential on that, which is 18% or something. But we would just raise everybody to 27 at that point. That I'm not, the differential doesn't really,
Right.
the mileage the resident, non-resident, we could charge it out at a flat fee as far as I'm concerned. But the $200, that's a good idea. I mean, that's simple. Simple and it's easy to implement. But I don't know, Alex, you see where I'm following along? This just doesn't make,
That's
the-
why
the inconsistencies just don't, I mean, we could just, I inked them in. I mean, you could just use those and then change them later because I basically tried to follow this, because this is the revenue side of it.
and then that's why I'd like to hear from them how they put it together. What methodology did they use? So that we can create something that works for us.
Yeah,
But I also, like Solani said, I don't want this hanging out there till April.
Right.
My plan will be to have it done on the 6th.
Alex, basically what we're doing is just for this next year,
Yep.
correct?
Yes.
So it can be changed again in
we could change it.
next year.
Well, definitely, we could change it every other day if we wanted to, but
Is that right?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's no statutory or any type of rule that says you can only change your fees once a year.
Okay.
I mean, you guys,
it's gonna be harder to prove it, justify it if we're ever called on it, if you change them constantly, but,
I think. at one
without a
point,
change in
Several years
cost.
ago, I think we did make some changes mid-year. It was
Yeah.
based on when we were having a big increase in fuel costs.
Right,
It was during that first kind of pinch where they were like, oh, diesel fuel's going up to $5 a gallon, and now, the cost of going to hospitals tripled. So we were responsive to that.
So basically, LifeQuest is recommending these rates, but we have an opportunity to change them at some other point in time. So I don't know what we have to lose.
You could make a motion.
I would like to make the motion to accept these rates, except with a resident discount of $200 per service, and to change the ALS one resident accordingly and make that $1,000 instead of the $975.
and all the other changes as presented. Yeah, on the
If you're
sheet.
talking a 200
Yes.
All the
discount,
rest, right. Or all the other changes previously discussed, which is everything added this.
And is the mileage 27 or?
Minus mileage 27, no differential. That's what they recommended. Yeah, okay.
I don't care.
Okay. Is there a
I'll
second?
second the motion.
I don't know. I'm still confused. I inked in other rates. I just think the rates as presented in red are not the right rates, so.
We still have the option to change them
Yeah, if you-
based on what
I
you'd
get
like
it,
to find
but-
out,
I think then getting together with LifeQuest and understanding these things better will
Well,
definitely help.
I want
especially by
us
the
to get together with LifeQuest.
Right.
So we're all on the same page and because I may have one concern, you might have another, and I think that it's good that we all be, in the same room together, because then we all hear the same message. And if there's something we don't agree with, we can hold them to the fire. Or, how did you come up with this? It's,
Okay, further discussion. Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. Nay. Motion carries. We are doing, well, the sheriff's here. Maybe we should defer for the sheriff. She's been sitting here patiently and we didn't want to interrupt. We don't know you though. You don't look like Ward.
No, I'm not worried, probably a little shorter. Good evening, everyone. My name is Captain Warsul. First name is Michelle. I'm the Knights Patrol Captain, so I cover second and third shift.
Okay, we usually have a little sheriff's report if there is one. Otherwise, board members can ask questions and then you don't have to sit in a boring meeting. You can get out and patrol.
The contract liaison, Lieutenant Wenzel did send out the November stats, which I hope the board was given a copy of that. Pretty much for the month of November, there were approximately 50 calls for service for the contract deputy for the village of Vernon. Within the month of November, there was about 21 traffic stops, 10 citations that were written. We had four written warnings and 12 verbal warnings. And then in regards to other calls for service during the month, there was calls for 911 hangups, 2 crisis evaluations, a death investigation, and harassment investigation. So I don't really have much else to report. I didn't know if the board had any questions.
Questions?
I do have one. We had a call earlier in the month that seemed to have some issues with crisis. Have you guys had a lot of frustration with the crisis part of your whole, trying to get them to come out, make an evaluation? I know a lot of times the default is to develop a safety plan, which sometimes I don't think is in the best interest of everyone involved. This particular one we had was something that the patient care, we fixed a problem and then the guy didn't want to go. We eventually got him to go, but it seemed like there's a lot of frustration on the officer's part with crisis intervention. Is that something you guys have noticed? Or has it delayed you doing your job?
No, so actually, that's a good question. And actually I can bring up, we actually incorporated a pilot program with the sheriff's office. It just started in November. So I think we're at about a 4-week mark with our Department of Health and Human Services. We actually have an embedded, we call it a mobile crisis worker or clinician that works in our sheriff's department now. So she is there Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. She's been given a radio that our deputies use as well. So what happens is when a call is dispatched and there's a mental health connection with that, she can listen to the call. If the scene is clear for her, she can be responding at the same time as the deputies or get the call from the deputies. So that kind of reduces that time where now the deputies are waiting for on scene for crisis to show up. So she can show up and then she can do the mental health assessment right away. So we're looking at ways to correct those inefficiencies. Mobile crisis is trying to work on that along with the sheriff's office. We work really well with them, and we're trying to work in ways that we can correct some inefficiencies. So this is a really good pilot program that has started. I'm very excited about it, and I think it's going to get better as we go along.
Alex, does your department go to those calls or part of those calls?
All the time. All the time. And we've had a couple sticky situations where medical issues become, and we have different rules than them in terms of crisis, that we have someone that has a medical problem, we're gonna defer to our medical direction, and we'll transport someone. But sometimes people get a little bit, they don't wanna go to hospital, that's when it causes a problem for us, so.
And unfortunately, yeah, we can't
Right.
force them, so.
Right.
Other questions?
I have one more question, and that was the easy question.
Oh, okay.
So, the tough question is gonna be is that, I would like to have a time where maybe you and the sheriff or the deputy could meet with the fire service and find out how you're gonna provide or help support us for fire investigation. Because as you know, we have nothing right now. And I think the state is becoming very frustrated with us always calling them. So just a little something to take back.
And when you say that, are you talking about DCI?
Yes.
DCI is what?
Department of Criminal Investigation.
Education, okay.
I can definitely pass that along and make sure that we can do the basic.
Appreciate it. And Ward does a phenomenal job.
He paid me.
No, he did not. He did not. He did not pay us for that.
So is the captain.
But he will, yes. And you do a great job too.
Contract,
Thank you, and so do you.
is that
Well, we try.
due again? Do we have to?
No, it's 5 years.
It was a 5-year one?
Yeah.
Okay. No evergreen? No?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Everyone
Thank
have
you.
a
Nice
good
meeting you.
holiday season, too.
You too.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
your brother.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay, election inspectors. You saw the emails, you see the resolution. And when we went through it with Attorney Macy, even though we did it in a particular fashion year over year, we had to change it slightly to conform to the way it should have been done all along under state statute. So there were some changes made on the whereas clause, but and you saw clerk administrator's email on it, so that's about all I have to say about it, so I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-19, a resolution to appoint election inspectors. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we are on wages. And wages.
President Carr,
Yes.
just
I got the
back to
wages.
this resolution real quick.
Which one? Oh, we're going backwards? Yeah.
Only that it says supervisors down on the sign.
Oops.
I'd just like to make sure that we get that corrected before we sign.
Yeah, I thought we fixed that. Okay. That, we would call that a typo, right, Karen?
Yes, we will.
Thank you for pointing that out.
And if we put my formal name in there instead of just nickname. If we're making
Oh,
changes.
right. I think that's the way it's on all of them, right, Dan?
Not on many.
Okay. Salaries. Okay, so we have a couple of things. Fire chief is here. I think quickly going through it, legally, the village board needs to set salaries. So we typically do it every year. And these are the amounts, I do believe, for Public Works, Clerk Treasurer, I think these are all in the budget as we adopted that budget. The fire department, the chiefs are in there as adopted in the budget. I think the hourly pay is what was proposed, and there's a dollar amount in the budget. Obviously, those are per hours as needed to backfill, and we've had, during the finance committee meetings, a conversation about that. The stipends is the reason why the chief's here, which we'll circle back to. And I think the rec director is what's in the budget, as well as the hourly wages for the deputy clerks and the seasonal employees. Is that right, clerk?
Yep, it will
Administrative.
change based upon it.
Based on
the
the,
change in the clerk, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the two new ones would be the 1550.
right.
2 new deputies.
And then, the little note about phone and fire or phone and mileage reimbursements. We had some clarification from our auditor. His point on that was to make sure that there was a note, and there's a note on here, that the stipends for the chiefs, fire chiefs, include a $50 monthly phone reimbursement, but the remaining part, is for mileage and other equipment or other documentation is needed to keep it off their W-2. So, that was some sort of note is included in there, but the big point there is the $50 needs to be, for the cell phone, needs to be separately stated. So that's what that note's about. Stipends then, and I had a conversation today, and so what I passed out, these little quick and dirty spreadsheets. Alex, you got your copy right there. And what I tried to reproduce is, and I think I did, the budgeted amount and where it came from based on Finance Committee, Tom Tomasak's analysis that he presented to the board at one of those Finance Committee meetings. I can't remember exactly what date that was. But if you look in the budget on the line item, the budget that we adopted, of course, the big summary budget, but if you look at the line items that make up those bigger, larger numbers, we get $580,840. I reversed engineered it based on Tom's notes about how it came up with. Salaries are in there, and of course, the hourly pay budgeted amount of $14,600 is in there. Then the next page, or the first, I think these are stapled in here, right? One that says budget on top, and then the next page is our discussion. I just wrote fire department discussion. That's our discussion today, Alex, and the board, about what you were thinking stipends were, should be for competitive pay reasons, and we ran the numbers to see what the difference in the budget was, basically. And that's kind of how we left it. You were coming tonight.
Right.
You would, instead of just me trying to, follow on what you were saying this morning, you can just present yourself. But that's, the number, the difference in the stipend rates, put $19,240 more in that line item than, originally, fed into the bigger budget that we adopted.
Right, and we weren't involved in that. Because and I think where the confusion has come in is that in the past, we've always reverse engineered this, which we talked about today for a while, right?
Right.
That it was always, okay, here's pot of money, make it work, which was frustrating, but it's difficult to do because we'd have an impressed amount of time to try to get it to work. This year, that kind of went a different way, and I don't know what you would describe that process as.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. Since I've been chairman or president, and I think before that too, the board was, here's some money, here's an increase, make it work. Well, when we looked at 21 in those finance meetings, we were headed over budget on salaries, and we thought maybe we ought to make it work for the budget for a change, as opposed to putting it all on the fire department, and let's come up with a rational number. And so then we sent Tom. Tom said, well, I can do that. Tom's on the fire commission as well. How much involvement, I wasn't there, we weren't there, so we don't know how much, discussion there was with respect to that, but as you may recall, we looked at his worksheet, and all I did was take his worksheet and put it on a spreadsheet. And did the calculations. That's where the number came from. And so it isn't as much reverse engineering now. I mean,
And in the meantime, we had done what we had always traditionally done in terms of trying to massage the numbers to make it work for what we anticipated we were gonna get. And those two numbers were off a little bit by about what, figured, originally we started about $30,000, we figured it was more like 20.
yeah, $19,240. basically, right?
Yeah, because, well, and when we worked it up, we had originally come up with a number of 617,000.
Right, and
And we,
over the phone, we got it to 614, 680.
yeah,
So
614.
I don't know if Patrick figured out the couple thousand difference or what, but.
But one of the things that we did identify as a potential solution to bridge the gap would be to, as we move into the end of the year here, our operating line items, we're gonna be ahead on on some things. And I think that if we have some liabilities out there, but we should be able to move the difference forward to cover what we were proposing from what's surplus of operating. And then that way, it's not really an impact. And we are anticipating that we're gonna have more revenue on the EMS side from those things we've talked about, especially now that we've looked at some of these billing rates that we've increased are gonna probably make that report, which is gonna be rerun, probably look a lot better. So,
Well, and on the board side, of course, we don't wanna, one of our, I suppose, sister departments ran into this north of us, where the board is approving stipends or wages that
and
blew out that completely blew out their budget.
right.
And we can't be in that situation either, where December, a year from now, we're sitting here looking at the numbers and saying, hey, well, yeah, you approved these stipends, but now we're, over budget. So we trying to do this, in a transparent, upfront way.
And the one thing Tom did do, he figured in some of that callback money that really wasn't ever figured in there, because at one point it was taken out. He's got some salaries in there to kind of compensate for some of those callbacks. So again, that could be below budget, that could be way above, depends on how busy we get next year. I mean, last year was, say, a banner year, but last year we were very busy first half of the year. We had a lot of substantial calls, impacts, events that took a long time, had people come back on callbacks, things like that, so that kind of impacted us as well.
Now, you've been authorized for like 75 bodies, and you weren't running anywhere near that number.
No, but when we were at a lower number, we got to that ceiling quite a bit because of the amount of people that were on leave of absence, people get full-time employment, and we were kind of floating back and forth, and it always created a conflict. So by going to the 75, it's given us the ability to basically float up and down as our staffing fluctuates.
Okay.
And just so you guys, the methodology that we use is we break it down to position for the department per day. So there's an officer, a driver, a couple paramedics, a couple firefighter EMTs, and that's how we break the positions down to figure out how much it's gonna cost us per year. So, there may be 50 people or maybe 35 people that are working those positions throughout the year. So, but we know what our constant is for what it's gonna cost for the staffing.
Did you build
our daily staffing?
Did you build more numbers in this year going forward? More people?
No. In terms of our authorized strength?
Yeah, in terms of what you got boots on the ground.
No, we're at 5. We're at 5 per shift.
Okay.
So, and several years ago, when we started, we ran 6 per shift. But when we had some budgetary challenges, we opted to eliminate a position, and that saves some money. So
Yeah.
that's one of those things that if we have developing relationships with our communities, we may be able to increase our staffing so that we can get back to staffing our station too as well.
Right. Well, 5 or 6 is pretty.
5 is the magic number because of the SPS requirements of structure fire. That's what.
Okay, because that's what I found when I was looking up. That seemed to be pretty consistent.
Yeah.
That it was either 5 or 6.
Yeah.
6 was up there pretty many times too. But.
And single certs come into play because they're not as much money. So we have a brand new person who doesn't have skills or has one skill. They're only paid they're paid a small amount compared to what a dual certification person is.
Yeah.
And then that's an incentive for them to get their skills. And if they go through the probationary period, they don't get them, then we let them go.
That's really just one duty crew.
Yes.
And you think that's good enough
Well, so
for what we need?
we have 6 duty crews that rotate. So
Oh,
as an example, during the week, we have an officer, his stipend's $190. There's 5 positions per week, which equals $950 per week times 52 weeks is $49,400 is what it costs per year to have that fire officer there, regardless of who it is, Smith, Jones, whatever.
Okay.
for the year to cover that Monday through Friday shift. And we've broken down the whole department that way in terms of our day staffing, our weeknights, and then our weekends.
So our budget is short by 19,000 plus?
Right, if we approve the wages on this page, fire department discussion, the stipends, our budgeted line item for stipends would be short $19,240.
But you have
So
a,
long as she's fully staffed and does it the full year and every
Right, right.
every shift is hit.
all
and
things remaining equal,
5 people show up if only 4 people show up for whatever,
right,
And that happens
You know-
occasionally because someone gets an overtime at work, someone calls in sick, we're short. And again, part-time department, we have those challenges.
right, there's always gonna be challenges like that. You're gonna be necessarily shorter duty crew or someone shows up late and it's not gonna get paid the full time. They're gonna get paid 2 hours short because they were 2 hours late. Why? Because they were in overtime in their first job or something. But you covered it anyway. I mean,
but you have a plan
but you have
or
a,
a concept of how to cover that shortfall within the fire department.
well, at the board level, we adopted a budget, this is part of public safety.
Right, I
So
understand.
long as we stay within that as a village, then we don't have to budget
Right.
amend. Then it goes to, okay, individual line items. Those individual line items are not, going up or down on them do not cause a budget amendment. But they're still important because that's how we look at that's how we build up to the the big summary. And, that's for the department heads. They have to live within their budgets. So, yeah, it would have to come out of, well, you mentioned it, you either have to come out of other line items in 2022, and, or if there's budget savings out of 21, we can, eventually earmark that over, but that's probably gonna be a budget amendment. But budget amendments to me they're not that big a deal, Howard will make us do them, but.
It'd have to be a biggie, because that public safety is such a huge category.
Yeah, it would have to be a big number to force a budget amendment. And the revenue offsets, that's, the trouble with the budgets are, the revenues are on the revenue side and the expenses are on the expenses, and just because your revenues go up doesn't mean your budget expenses automatically go up. That's just the nature of it. And we did factor in, on the revenue side, as you know, and everybody should know, the Big Bend contract, and also an increase in the ambulance runs, because we're gonna be servicing Big Bend, or that's the, plan. The other alternative I mentioned is, well, we could punch these stipends up to what you want, but delay the punch, 2 months or 3, or whatever the numbers are, 2 months at the old rate and then punch them all up. And we could do it that way too, and stay within your budget then. Stay within the budget the line item budget of 580. Could do it that way. That as an alternative, for example. We're getting into this discussion to circle back, as before it was just, you guys make it work. Well, you're saying, well, we can't really make it work, or this is the way we'd like it to work, baby.
And I guess, not to throw a stone, but had we been involved in this part of this a little bit more, we would have been able to identify those concerns and say, look, because our challenge is retaining people, because they're, again, it's no secret, people are shopping around for where they can go get paid. And if another department pays $5 more bucks an hour, that adds up. Nice equipment, good leadership only goes so far when you're $5 an hour less on someone. So that was the rationale of adding basically $10 to each stipend is what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is except on the recruit.
Right, well, no. So what we had talked about and was that the day stipend would go to 190 for the officer and EMT, or the officer and paramedics, and then 160 for the firefighter EMTs. And then at night, it's knocked down a little bit. It would go from 160 to 170, 160 to 170, 125, 135. The recruits, and there's not a lot of the recruits, so it's not a huge impact. It would go from 20 to 30. Within the weekends, when they're here for 24 hours, they would go from, we talked about $15 for the weekend. So they go from 345 to 355, and then respectively 250 to 265, and then 40 to 50. So it's a modest increase. Again, you know, it's getting hard to retain people, and you know, we have been very fortunate. We don't have, and I'm a career firefighter, but we have made this program work very well, and it's been a model that other people have kind of have duplicated or copied. So I think this helps makes us competitive, and I think that at the end of the year we can make an amendment off of what we have identified as surpluses out of our operating to help lessen that impact. That I think we would be able to be there.
Yeah, and the difficulty on the revenue side is we just don't know what the revenues are gonna be in 2022. In fact, we don't know really what they're gonna be in 2021
Well, and-
until like
Right.
months
Until
into
2022.
until
Right.
2022, months into 2022.
Right.
And this number was set with that in mind, that I think we looked at the reality of the revenue being half of what was on that piece of paper we got from them, saying, well, we are, you know, we're not gonna be delusional, think we're gonna get that much money as just, so we kind of looked at it as a conservative way to be able to increase that. So that's how we got to where we were.
Right, so tonight, we need to establish salaries, and part of that is what we just got done talking about, the stipends. So we need to, what's on the page in front of you for 22, the rates on the stipends are last year's rates, 21 rates. So before this is adopted, we need to fill in the right rates. The budgeted rates are what what I passed out under budget that we calculated. It's 21 rates, officers, firefighters, day, 180. The budget was 184 to come up with the budget number. The proposal here is 190. For firefighter EMT was 150, budget 154, proposal 160. Does that make sense? Are you following it? Everybody following that? And the night rate, same kind of deal, 160, budget 164, proposal 170. Firefighter EMT, 125, budget 129, proposal 135. And weekends, 340 last year, budget 348, then 355 proposed, and then 250, 258, and 265. So, and the cumulative effect is
$6 more per.
$6, yeah, it's basically $6 more, and you do all the math, and it's $19,240. So the proposal would be to start it up right away on January 1. Thoughts?
Oh, you don't want to hear my thoughts.
Well, we're gonna have to
Because
take a
our
vote.
guys-
We're gonna have to take a vote. We'll hear them soon enough.
I don't think we're paying our guys enough anyhow. So this is
The proposal, yeah.
a proposal, and it's, to me, if Chief thinks this will help retain or get guys that we need, I'm all for it. I mean, we're paying, no offense, we're paying some of our clerks or not that it's the same kind of a work, but on an hourly basis, as much as the
Oh, a new
fire
one,
guys.
gotcha.
That
You're
have
paying
got
D-
all the
you're-
schooling and
You're
everything.
paying DPW guys a lot more than you are
absolutely.
paramedics.
Oh, that's
A lot
even
more.
another example.
Right, and there have been people within our organization that have identified that, because they're not, and it's like, wow, you know what, this is.
Right.
But, it's amazing that people do our job, because number one is they want a career in it, so we can maximize that opportunity for
These
them.
numbers, yeah.
And it's just something that, I mean, years ago, people did it because they really want to help their community out, but now people can't do
Can I
that.
fix this little
Yeah.
sentence down here?
And years ago, I mean, you guys
The $50.
have known people that have been on the department for years
So Howard
that
doesn't yell at us.
gave thousands and thousands of hours to the community and, you know, never got a dime for it. That's just the way it was. You know, and that's
Including a $50.
that's hugely and immensely,
monthly
you
phone.
know, appreciated, but that doesn't exist today anymore.
Right.
You know, and this is I think we've always looked at it over the last several years that it's baby steps. You can't hit a home run, you know, every time you go to the plate. So we've always tried to incrementally increase these so that we can stay competitive. And I think right now we're at the point that we are competitive because we offer a lot of things other organizations don't. A lot of organizations may pay someone $24 an hour, but they only have 2 people there, where we have 5 people. So we provide a better service because we have enough people to start a job, whether it's a structure fire, it's an EMS call. You know, we don't have people hurting their backs because we have more people on the scene to help lift and all those different things. We bought good equipment, power stair chairs, all those different things that help make our job safer. And the biggest component of making it safer is having people. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
You know, and if we had this comparable service as a full-time department, it'd be about $2 million. So I think we're good at it. And they appreciate your sentiments that they don't make, because they know they're appreciated, they really do. They know you guys appreciate them a lot. And, you know, they have a lot of pride when they walk in the door every day.
Do we have a document that has the final numbers on it?
She's getting it.
Oh, okay. Because that's what we would need, right, to do the
To
motion?
do the motion, but we can discuss it. So
Right.
hopefully, Dan, do you have anything to add, subtract, a view one way or the other? Marie? Lorraine? Well, I thought it was reasonable. I mean, we had a conversation.
We had a
We have to be
2-hour
able to.
conversation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I did the spreadsheets and everything while we were working on it, so, yeah.
Is there 5 here?
There's 4, you got an extra one? I think the understanding's gotta be though, we've got to make this work within the budget, whether we're savings out of 21 or savings in 22, so that our bottom line number, you know, I don't know that I necessarily care, so unless we're skipping on deferred maintenance or something, that's
Well, no,
different.
and,
Yeah.
you know, and-
Or you're, you know,
Right, and even this year, we had a huge unanticipated maintenance issue that you can't forecast something like that happening.
Right.
You drop an engine, but, you know, even with that being said, we really tried to tighten the belt, so to speak, because we knew early in the year, we had a huge expense. And, you know, we tried to maximize the resources that the community gives us.
Look how much you use Bowl. You saved a lot of money there.
For what?
Bowl to make.
oh, maintenance.
Oh, yeah, oh, and you know, Bo's phenomenal. The DPW in general has been great. John Hennenberry's been phenomenal. Those guys are just, they're very accommodating. They always got a great attitude and they take care of us. And we really, really appreciate that, because when that all started, I was a little skeptical of it. And, we got Bo, Bo
A
knows.
little?
Oh, you're getting a raise for Bull.
Yeah, Bo's raises in here on this sheet. Okay, anything else during discussion here? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to approve what was just passed out, this, resolution 2021-22, to establish salaries and reimbursements for village employees effective January 1, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Yes? Okay.
Just have one question. So where is this money coming from? How do we figure that out?
2021 budget savings that could carry over, or 2022 budget savings in other categories.
Right.
So this year, in 21, we were
I don't know about that. The compensation was pretty high, but not, that doesn't mean anything, the rest of the stuff, though.
No, we were looking at the operating budget for not the actual salaries, as our budget's broken into the personnel and salaries into the operating budget. We've identified funding in the operating budget. We can move forward from 21 to 22 to help to cover the deficit.
The other thing we need to look at when the ARPA rules come out in final form is for any part of this pay, and maybe just for COVID runs, I don't know what these final rules are going to apply, and if there's COVID, if there's an ability to use ARPA funds to cover wages or part of the wages, or, you know, we oughta.
We have picked up a lot of people that have COVID, and it has impacted us from a financial standpoint. It may not be easy to track because of how we staff, where we have people, we're just like a career department. We have people in the station all the time. So whether that call is a COVID or a broken leg, they're there, but they're gonna take care of the call. But with the ARPA funding that's out there for some of the stuff, we should try to maximize that as much as we can. I know that where I work full-time, we're buying 2 brand-new fire trucks out of ARPA money. So I would think that hopefully we can somehow figure out a way to pay for that ambulance with ARPA money instead of borrowing.
Well, or part of these salaries.
And part of the
Or,
salary.
and I don't know what the final rules are. We've had this discussion about ARPA, and the rules haven't been finalized, and,
Yeah, it's amazing, here's your money, but
yeah, well, yeah, we have half our money in, but we have no idea how to spend it, or what it can be legally spent on. How's that? You know?
And again, I would think of a larger, one of the top 10 cities in the cities utilizing that money for fire trucks. There should be no question about buying an ambulance. And then that takes that off the back of our taxpayers.
Right.
What about the money, potential money from selling the old ambulances?
That'd be another thing.
I mean, that's
Be
not,
another source
that's
of
not
fund. That's-
earmarked necessarily for anything,
Right, that's completely off budget right now, so, right.
right?
Yeah, that goes back to the general fund, and it's,
Right.
But that's a short-term patch, but,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, do we have a vote? We didn't take.
We did it, yep. I made the motion, Lorraine
Lorraine
seconded.
seconded it.
We had the
No,
discussion.
you had a discussion point, and we just answered discussion. So we do need to take the
We need to take the
take the
vote.
vote. Any further discussion? Yes, Nick?
Just real quick, I know we had been talking about performance reviews before salaries went into effect or something. Is that still?
Well, I think we talked about it. We were gonna get that employee manual done first and then,
Right.
and establish that in 22. That's the way I recall it, but. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you, chief. I don't know, what else do we need you for? That's it, I think.
contract, good, I signed it, whatever, I mean. Yes, I did.
Send it back away.
No, I signed it.
You didn't. I
Oh, yeah, the fire chief contract. There, it's just date and pay just needs to be updated.
sent it back to your guys. You sent it back away. You gotta ask my staff.
All right, give me one, I'll sign it.
So you have to scan it back in, chief, after you
No, I
signed
just-
it.
I printed it out, and put it in the envelope to APs.
All right, next up, Village of Vernon Employee Handbook. I don't think so.
Alex, do you wanna sign your thing?
Yeah, I'll sign it. Have a great holiday, hopefully, feeling better?
Yeah, you too. Stay safe.
You feeling good? Feeling better?
And we're gonna still work on the rates, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I will send him an email tonight and say we're gonna have a meeting.
I already did that.
Oh, you did? See, look at that. My secretary took care of it.
Hey,
And stay on schedule and adjust them as necessary. Well, you heard the discussion. Okay. So we'll be in touch.
Yes, it did. Yeah, I sent it to him. In fact, I got an email back from him, Attorney Marsek, our labor attorney. And he is reviewing it. He thought he'd have it done by Tuesday, last Tuesday. He obviously hasn't finished it yet, but I've been anxiously awaiting it. I had hoped to have it actually back by tonight. So he has it, is in the process, and he's got to be very close to being done with it.
I've read through it. I stickered little pages on it with changes that I thought were going to be made but weren't, or changes that were made that,
Well, the
I don't think
changes
there
you
should.
actually talked about, I did make,
well,
because I marked them down and went through it on every one.
maybe I'm wrong on some of
Maybe
these.
you're just catching something that you didn't see before. too.
No, I flipped open what I had went through.
Whatever.
And, well, okay, Jim. Probationary period. New employees are required to serve a three-month period, approximately 80 working days. Okay, 80 working days is 4 months.
Yeah, that's what it had always been, was 80 days. It's how it was referred to before.
Right, and so the 3 month is really 4 months.
It says 3 months. Now.
Yes, it says 3 months,
Right.
and it says also 80 working days. So what I'm saying is, when we discussed about it, it was we were gonna change the 3 months to 4 because we were keeping the 80 working days.
No, when we discussed it, we were going to make it 3
Or we're gonna make
months.
it 3 months, and then you gotta change the 80 to 60. Okay,
30 days.
working days.
Oh, working days. It's,
Or you'd say 90
yeah.
calendar.
No, we had said 3 months is.
That's how I recalled it, but.
Yep. That's fine. What page were you on?
Well, that, you just said you made them all, and I just wanted to give you an
Well,
easy,
we didn't
easy one.
change the 80. We changed
Okay.
it to 3 months, and that's what I did.
All right.
I didn't catch the 80 days after.
Okay, all right. It's things like that, okay?
That's fine. And I'm pretty certain that Lieutenant Marsek would catch those kind of things too.
Well, I hope so.
You know.
I hope
But
so.
I can just go through those that you.
Yeah, you can go through them, sure. I mean, we could do it right now if you wanted to. There's the other thing, Marzick will probably catch that, a Central Standard Time, we're gonna
changed that.
change, there's one spot where you missed it. On
I did
page
miss it.
15.
Microsoft Word missed it if it's not.
Well, then Microsoft Word missed it, but somebody's running the program,
Tells you which ones.
What'd you, on page 15, that should have been picked up on a search, but anyway, I did notice on page 16, under pay policies, that's where the comp time was in, and that was gone. I don't know where it got
I
moved to.
told you I moved that all to around page 36 or so, or 38.
All right. It's hard to follow when it's not redlined.
It is, well, it was redlined. It is
Not on
still
mine.
redlined.
Not on mine.
That's
the
not a
print that
color
I
copy.
got.
I'd asked for color copies. It's simple.
This is a colored copy. I see blue right there. My copy.
It wouldn't be blue, it would be red, but, because I deleted it.
I don't know what, you're just talking. I mean, you can't say it's the color. I didn't get a colored copy because it's colored. Okay?
Well, can't Jen just email him?
Sure, I'm just
You
saying.
questioned me about that 2 weeks ago, I would have given you one.
Never mind.
I'm not that way.
I guess this is 3 months. So I don't know. I mean, if Marzick picks these up on a legal review, fine, but, there's things that I saw that we talked about and I thought were gonna get changed. So you say you made them, and if there's a color track changes, I didn't get it. Even though I got a color printout. I mean, the smoking policy, I know we changed that to include no smoking in village vehicles and equipment. It's not in here, so that's page 55. I know we
I know
talked
it's in
about
there.
that.
I made that change. I know I made
Okay.
that change. I remember it.
Okay, if this is a problem that I don't have a current draft, that's one thing.
That's probably what it sounds
But
like.
there are other changes that have been made in here. So, I don't know what I'm looking at, but if that's the case.
Go to page 33. Top of the page. Okay,
PTO?
I see the red from here,
Yeah,
you know.
there's red here.
So
It's a
that was,
colored,
that was what I added.
it's a colored
'Cause I
thing.
changed that table just to make it a little easier.
Well, and, here's my sticker here on the bottom of that page where you floated it. Letter B says, to better address the scheduling needs, offers a combined bank of paid time off and holiday benefits. Well, no, it's not combined. We separated out holiday benefits, right?
It is combined. It's holiday benefits and PTO.
No. Remember, we had a discussion about holiday time being part of PTO and it was one big bank and we said, nope, we're gonna separate it. And you did separate it.
It is, yeah.
It is separated. I'm saying the sentence here says it's still combined. All I'm saying is, it just, in holiday benefits. I'm talking about just striking it. It's a change that should have been made that wasn't. That's all I'm saying.
No, that I actually intended that way because of how, that's exactly the verbiage from the PTO manual from, that I was given by our personnel people. That's exactly how I said it, because it's two components. Holiday time, because we couldn't combine that into the standard PTO. And
Okay.
they both jumped on me for that.
Okay, so then strike the word combined. I mean, that's just,
Table this discussion or refer it back to human resource.
Well, it's not even an HR issue.
it's in legal review right now.
Yeah. So there's bound to be numerous changes coming back from Attorney Marsick. I would assume,
And then we'll go through it again.
whatever.
Okay. Motion to table it.
I
Fine with
didn't make
me.
the motion on it.
Yeah, it's fine. Any discussion on the motion to table? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye, or whatever I'm supposed
Nay.
to say. Nay?
Nay.
It never seems right to say aye to that one.
It's nay.
Nay.
A motion to table. It's tabled. It's supposed to be effective January 1, but I suppose we can
Right.
make it retroactive.
That's, well, that, had you given me that,
Well, I just read it, Jim.
well, you see, you were supposed to read it a month ago.
Well, there's a lot of stuff here that I've been doing
Oh,
in the meantime. But I want to make sure, too, I've got the most recent draft. You're saying that,
that,
you
it
know,
should, in that blue box right at the very top, yeah, that's got a date on it. What's the date on that?
You guys have a motion.
Yeah,
December
and we're in the
2nd.
discussion.
All
We already
right.
voted.
Let's go through the contracts. DPW 2022 contract. The only comment I have on that is in that contract, it talks about vacation and personal days. Now, under the manual, it's gonna be one combined. It's the only change. That contract should then be, before we sign it, modified to provide for that, to be consistent with this as written.
I don't even.
You don't remember that? Or you don't, well, let's flip it
No,
up.
not in the contract part.
Yeah, in the contract, yeah, let's go to the contract then. In the contract, this is the DPW Director Contract, under 4A,
Yeah.
talks about vacation, and it also talks about accrued sick leave, under I.
Oh, yeah.
And there is no more vacation, no more sick leave, it's PTO.
Right.
So all I'm saying is this contract, besides updating the salary that was just approved and the dates, and the effective date, you know,
Yeah.
the contract itself should be, those two provisions should be revised to make it consistent with where I'm, you know,
I read that contract. I didn't even catch that.
right. So, and we could bring it back and make it retroactively in January, or just, we could make a motion to make those changes.
Approve it subject to change, right?
Subject to those changes.
I'd make that motion.
Is there a second? Everybody understand what the? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Maureen, did you second, I'm sorry, did you second that motion? Okay, I'm sorry.
Are you gonna give that to Karen?
Yep,
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
yep. Well, I didn't write it up, but it's easy enough, it's easy enough to write up. Okay, next up, Building Inspector 2022 contract. We'll need to date it, we'll just need it redated, otherwise it's the same contract, the same rate, the same percentages. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Has he ever gotten a raise? Is there a raise in there for him?
It's,
It hasn't changed since 2013.
he gets a percentage of the fees collected for permits.
So yes, he has got a raise.
So he has got a raise if those fees go up.
So that's how he gets, okay.
Yes, yes.
One thing I wanna bring up about the building inspector, he does a lot of visits to properties, sometimes at the request of board members. Apparently, the board before us had him running often. He has no mileage reimbursement for that. Just bringing that up.
I think that's part of his contract, that's on his side, I think. This is an independent contractor, not an employee. It's not, we're not paying a particular person, we're paying a company,
Okay. Right.
so. Any other discussion? Otherwise, otherwise it's the same as the year before. All in,
Was there a motion?
do we have a
I
motion?
thought,
You made the motion, Lorraine, you seconded it, or?
I thought it was just the opposite.
Lorraine made the motion, yeah, and Dan, yes, Dan seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. What's up next?
Chief,
Fire chief. And again, if we need to go into closed session, let's just flag it, but so far, I haven't seen any reason to do it. Fire chief, there, it's just the new date and the new compensation salary that was just approved. So we're looking for a motion to approve that contract.
The only
and the date.
And the date, yep, date and pay is what I have down. So is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
You should tell me he doesn't even need a contract.
Well, he doesn't.
Sorry.
He doesn't because he's protected by state law.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's really difficult to change chiefs if, you know. He doesn't need a contract for that, but.
That's true. All of that is true. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now on the Village of Vernon Assessors contract. That is in process, and we just got a revised draft of it very recently. We appointed Accurate as our assessor. We made a motion to get going on the contract, and it had to have specific provisions regarding termination and return of data. The first draft that came over did not have those provisions in it. Attorney Macy had a bunch of comments as well, because it was subject to legal review right away to get it going. And I've had a conversation, well, no, I didn't really talk to Macy about it, other than, yeah, we got your,
Right,
and they're gonna make the changes. There was some issues about insurance too, and we just got a revised draft, I think, yesterday.
Yes.
And you forwarded that on, I
Yeah,
think.
late yesterday afternoon.
Late yesterday afternoon. I haven't read it to see if they've picked up all the changes yet even.
Chris said he has, but I haven't had a chance to.
Yeah, and you haven't looked at it either. And we had insurance questions, and I think we're gonna send it to our insurance agent,
Right.
just to make sure that we
Right.
were covered.
But you could approve it contingent on all those factors.
Right, but I think we already have it approved, subject to attorney review.
Well, that's
and
true.
So it's, so to me, if there's something specific that you want to discuss, we could go into closed session and discuss it, but I don't know that there's, any more
Actually, I was-
action to take.
I was a little surprised that we even had it on our agenda, because I thought, from a board standpoint, we already said we wanted to go with them. So this is just the approval of the actual contract.
Right, and it's
And-
not quite ready to approve. It's on the agenda in the event that we need to discuss it. In other words, if what the board, instructed the contract to say, if Accurate said, well, we're not gonna do that. Well, then we needed to have it on remember, we're putting these agendas out before we got the
Oh,
revised.
understood, yeah.
The revised contract. That's why I put closed session in the event that happened. I don't think it happened. I think he
No, and
said he
I
made
know
it.
Chris did say.
He told
he's
me he was gonna make the
do
changes,
everything,
so-
everything we
I
wanted.
saw his last email he
Right.
sent just recently.
Right, so,
And we're not making any changes other than what's recommended
By the board.
by
Right.
the attorneys.
Right, and the board, because they had that termination clause. Remember, in that motion, there was that, the board felt real strongly about,
Oh, yeah, we wanted a way out.
right?
yes, an
if they
early
didn't-
way out. Yeah, an early way out and make sure, it was an early way out and make sure we get our data back.
Yeah,
Because it's different, it's not a market drive software product, it's their own software products. So we're worried about the data coming back. Whether it's early, at the end of 3 years, or 30 years if he keeps getting renewed. Okay, so that's where we're at on that contract. So I don't think needs to be any, and we're gonna continue to work on it and get it done probably next week, so.
yeah. Well, it sounded like he had his attorneys working on it.
Yeah.
To comply with whatever that last issue was that we sent.
Right. And Attorney Macy did have something about insurance, which there was a little bit of back and forth. We got to resolve that too, so.
Yeah.
But I think that's resolvable.
Yeah, in his last email, he said that insurance, I thought, was a resolved issue, that they had to put it in the contract,
Okay.
or send us a copy of something.
Yeah, they did send a certificate of insurance.
Okay,
I'm sending it right now, guys.
Yeah, recently, like maybe even today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to take any action there. It's on the agenda in the event we had to or go into closed session because it wasn't being worked out somehow. But I think it is being worked out at this point. The next item on the agenda would be the intergovernmental agreement for fire services. Everybody got a copy of that. Jim's got it in his hand right now.
yeah, I actually didn't see anything in it
That was,
that wasn't part of our plan right from giddy up.
right, from our plan from the very beginning.
Right.
As discussed with the board and approved by the board.
Right.
As far as how we were going to do it. The only thing on that draft that I saw, I like to criticize other people, right, Jim? But I criticize my own work. There's some formatting issues in it, but that's above my pay grade, is figuring out word formatting. So again, we could go, so here's where this is at. This has all been through the attorneys, as our attorneys looked at it, as directed by the board. Big Ben's attorney has looked at it. We have not heard back from either the Shared Services Committee at Big Bend about their attorney comments, or through Macy. I just checked with John today, as a matter of fact, at noontime. So it's still in Big Ben's court. I think it is in Big Ben's court right now. Jim and I were told at the last Shared Service Committee that it would be on their January 6th, I think they meet on Thursday, agenda for discussion and approval. I put it on our agenda because we're meeting today. We could go into closed session if there was any questions whatsoever on it. If there aren't, then there's no need to, go into closed session on this contract anyway. We could just table it and adopt it on January 6th in accordance with, on Big Ben's schedule. That there's an effective date of January 1. That's going to move. I think it's highlighted in there or something. Or we could adopt it tonight. But if there's changes in the meantime, and we haven't adopted the same agreement, and I would say if we're going to do that, that's fine, adopt it, subject to Big Ben's adoption of it. We can't just unilaterally do it. But Jim and I, we did tell the Big Ben Shared Services that we would put it on our agenda tonight, so we did.
Yeah, like I say, it read the way I expected it to, from day one. My only hesitation to approving it subject to attorney's review is if Big Ben's attorney made some changes that we might have heartburn over.
Right.
Because we haven't
Haven't
seen them.
I was hoping to get their
Right.
attorney changes before this meeting. Of course, we're doing these agendas and getting this together, as best we can. But like I just reported, we haven't heard back.
Now, if we say subject to attorney's approval, in my mind, that would indicate that our attorney would have to
Approve it.
approve it. And I would assume that he wouldn't approve something that was not in our best interest.
Right, well, he would say, well, the board needs to approve this change,
Right.
If it's substantive or anything to do with, any of the substantive terms.
Yeah.
Which if you look, it's all in paragraph 6 is really. what
Right,
it's at.
right. That's where
That's where
the meat is.
Yeah, so. But we've been through this in closed session before.
And I actually am not expecting
Me neither.
any big changes from Big Ben because their committee members were all on board and in favor of it the way we have it written here.
Right, at that meeting, we had a draft, and they took issue with some things, and we
But-
fixed it up.
Right.
And this draft is the agreed to fixes with the committee, with the Shared Services Committee.
How many members of the board are on that committee?
They have 3 members, and we have 2 members. Jim and I are on our committee, and they have 3 members. They have a 7-person board of trustees there.
Right. So one more person sides with what they're thinking, that's the majority.
Right.
They've been working on it over a year and
13 months, 14 months?
right, yes, to be exact. But they know whether they got the numbers or not, and, they wouldn't be presenting it unless they knew they had the right numbers. But I was just, concerned, as long as we have a way to say, hey, we don't like that change, or need to change the verbiage that their attorney suggested, then I'd, for expedience's sake, just make the motion to make it subject to attorney review and approve it.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a right answer in my mind. We could wait
Yeah.
but I wanted to get it in front of our board And if there was objections to terms in it, we'd go into closed session and we could discuss those and go back to them right away. But if there are no objections to the terms, to me, it's like, well, you guys are good for it. I mean, a good for, we're not gonna nitpick it now on January 6th. We're gonna adopt it. And in the meantime, if there are changes, based on the attorneys back and forth, we'll have a cleaner draft. And maybe we can just flat out approve it then. Without any attorney review.
Right,
With an effective date of whatever
date.
it is, they're gonna have to give us their idea about that is. And when we talked to Chief Feldy, it's really a 9/11 dispatch issue,
Yeah.
so. And, we'll prorate the base rate based on days or something. If it starts mid-month or February 1 or January 7th. So that should, if we approve it, we'll have to approve it, something like that, subject to what, a mutually agreed effective date and a proration of the base rate or something. I don't know what else we would do.
See, in a way, I'd like to approve it ahead of time,
There is some advantage to that.
because if we both say, like, if we say, well, also based on Big Ben's approval, okay? And if they said the same thing, also based on Vernon's approval,
Well, I think it's approved.
how does
then.
that work?
I think it's approved then. I think it's approved. Thoughts on that, board members?
I think you guys have done so much work on this already. It almost sounds as though it's kind of unlikely that there's gonna be any other major issues.
Well, I don't think there's gonna be any major issue.
I don't think,
So
yeah,
why-
I agree.
Why don't we just try to approve it tonight?
Great. Yeah, and then it goes through, if they approve it also, it's done.
What about, okay, so we'll approve it subject to the Village of Big Bend approval and
And our,
our attorney review,
right,
or subject to our attorney review
I
in the,
thought you already reviewed it.
well, but if they come back with something,
that was the only concern I had. They may,
they may come back with something.
Final.
Yeah. How's that? Yeah, that's okay. Final review. Did we say anything about an effective date, mutually agreed effective date? Who is gonna be mutually agreeing that? The Shared Services Committee or?
If they approve it on January 6th, then it becomes approved on January 6th, doesn't it?
Well, the effective date of the,
with the service,
Service.
when does the service begin?
again,
The contract is one thing, but what's the start time for the service?
service.
The 7th
It could be as early as the 7th.
of 2022.
If we know that they approved it
Right.
on the
if we-
6th,
On the 6th.
which
and-
isn't always,
And the 9/11
Well,
switch,
yeah.
if you will.
Put the-
It's not just boards waving their hands. There's operational on the ground things that need to happen to make it happen. And then there'll be, well, they're gonna ask for a proration of the fee, but maybe they won't. Well, we can always bring it back on the 6th. If
Right.
if there's provisions in there that are not
smashed up, right?
and we'd have to, you can't approve two different agreements and say you have a deal. So if they approved, it just doesn't work that way. So we could do it, without conditions. We could just say with an effective date on the day after approval, or as quickly as possible after approval of both, after approval of the Village of Big Bend. Could say it that way on the motion. Then we're covered on the date.
Because Alex is gonna be ready to go on the 7th.
Oh, and we've talked to him about that. He can be ready on the 7th. He can be. But he's got to know.
He'll be ready.
That's true, he might go down to the meeting. He could,
Yeah.
or send somebody. Okay, we have enough on a motion there to make?
Yes, I'll make that
Do
motion.
you have enough?
I got it, I got it.
Would you read that back to me so I remember what I said?
Well, we were supposed to have these motions written up in advance.
Yeah, I looked, I didn't see one of those.
Yeah, well, I didn't see any of these, but, is there a second? Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Unanimous?
Unanimous. All right. True Green contract. Notice I didn't put this in closed session. I don't see how possibly we'd go in. This is coming from DPW Director Henneberry for the soccer fields, I think.
For all the parks.
All the parks.
And he did add the soccer field next door because it's actually degrading because it's so full of weeds, so, and he does have it in his budget, and it's the normal increase, and this has been researched by John multiple years to see the best service, and True Green really is the best service. So this is what John's recommending and asking the board to approve the contract and authorize Carl to sign it.
Right, so then there's two contracts in here, or at least,
Yes.
so, it's to approve both contracts and authorize the village president to sign both of them, right? There's two, this is two separate contracts, in other words, I was getting, yep, okay. So yeah, one says Town of Vernon on it, we'll make that change to Village of Vernon in the contract. And yep, that's the only change. So on DPW Director Henneberry's recommendation, we are looking for a motion to approve both True Green commercial contracts as presented for the Village of Vernon and authorize the village president to sign them.
I will make that motion.
Is there a second? Second by Trustee Kumashek. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, ordinance 2102-08, an ordinance to approve rezoning of the property located as SA68W22800 National Avenue, which is County ES, of course, VNT 201-9991, from R1 1 acre residential to B3 general business. This is the ordinance to, well, I just said it, to approve the rezoning of the property that we had the joint board and plan commission meeting last week, Wednesday. And at that meeting, the board did approve it, subject to the conditions as presented. Of course, subject to an ordinance, because that's how you adopt ordinances. So, has not been reviewed.
Yes, and it's very important that,
He
especially
does
on the
it.
zoning ones, that,
Yeah.
that's why I put on the bottom that it has not had legal review, and it really should.
Right, so one thing we could do is adopt it, subject to legal review. Another thing is we could just direct clerk administrator to send it off for legal review and have it come back, and we could adopt it at our next meeting. This is conditional. To me, there's no rush on it in the sense that it's conditional. The third condition is it goes back to where it was if the site plan and plan of operation for an RV storage operation doesn't come out of plan commission.
And the same thing happened with the Scafidi property. It was zoned B3 for a wood cutting business, but he never fulfilled his terms, so he lost his zoning and reverted back to R1, or D5, I'm sorry.
Right, and so to me, the only issue there is the attorney fees to review it. Do you wait and see if he can make it out of plan commission, or just go ahead and get it done?
You already reviewed this, didn't he? I mean, he's
Nope.
saying here it's a policy decision, and he goes on,
Well, it's a policy decision whether you want to rezone it.
yeah, so that means he's already looked at it.
I know he hasn't.
He hasn't, I can tell you he hasn't.
But how could he give us an answer on this then?
I did not send it. I did not send it to John. I don't send anything to John unless the board tells me, unless it's an emergency. But I have not sent this to John for legal review. I just drafted it.
Right, he probably should have put on there,
I have not
he
reviewed.
recommends that it be subject to legal review. He usually says that, but he didn't on that one.
So what it says here is that he's read the agenda and didn't read any of the details of it, or maybe doesn't even have the details of it.
So you gotta look at his legal bill and make sure he didn't look at it.
Intend to.
There's no way he could have, because he hasn't even seen it.
That's right.
Yeah, sometimes he looks in the e-packet to see what I've got there, but when Carl and I talked to John, I did say, John, I did put a disclaimer on the bottom that it has not had legal review. And these are really important ordinances.
Yeah, so that's maybe why he didn't put it in his attorney comment, because it is coming across.
Yeah.
And as opposed to other contracts that he says, well, let me know if you need legal review on it. Because the contract, we just approved a bunch of them without legal review.
Yeah, or the legal review is old.
Right.
So either way, like the president said, I can send it off and you can wait, or you can approve it contingent on legal review.
If it's a policy decision, then what do we need legal review for?
Because, well, zoning ordinances are pretty technical and they have to be right. And I'm not an attorney.
Yeah, it's an ordinance.
Yeah. Jim, you know that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody else did.
Yeah, it's an ordinance, it's a legal document, it's gonna be part of our zoning code.
And I put the contingencies that the board and plan commission set in the ordinance. But I don't know if they're in the right place.
But we always approve these subject to attorney review anyhow.
Right.
I mean, any ordinance like that.
Right, so that would be, to me, the only distinction here is when is he gonna do it? And maybe you save attorney's fees if it never gets out of plan commission, if you delay him doing it.
But the planning commission recommended to the board to approve.
And the
And
board
the board.
approved it,
Yeah.
Well,
subject to
yeah.
getting an ordinance. Yeah, they already have,
Yeah, it's been approved.
to me,
Okay,
to
see,
me,
that's
the
where
policy decision has already been made.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the final step. When the plan commission makes a recommendation and the board approves, the final step is an ordinance. It can't become, you can't change the zoning unless you do an ordinance, and that's what this does.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I'll make the motion to approve, subject to attorney review.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion, Dan.
What do you recommend? Just like you said, it really is spend money now for the legal review, or is it spend money later for the legal review,
Well,
right?
as pointed out in another example, if the plan now never comes to fruition, either because it's abandoned by the petitioner, which is possible,
Oh, he's on the next plan commission agenda.
but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think he's going to abandon it. Or at the plan commission, he can't, the conditions that are discussed and agreed to at the plan commission are such that he can't meet them or doesn't want to meet them.
It's null and void.
And then, he abandons the plan.
Are these chargeback?
Yes.
Attorney zoning changes? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, this is incurred by the petitioner, so this is charged back. Even though it's a law for the village, we wouldn't have to do it if it wouldn't, and
Yeah, if
he
he didn't come
understands, Chad
forward, if he
understands
didn't come forward, we wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
that. And this person pays his bills on time.
So, that's the only thing.
Again, your motion was,
To approve is subject to attorney review.
and have attorney review right away?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right, the only way you'd wanna, the only reason why you'd wanna wait is to see what happens at next, he's on for January.
Yes.
And
January
he's
Plan
on for
Commission.
January to see what happens tonight. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, yes. Second on the agenda.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Where are we? Aye. Authorize village clerk to adjust the Alex's Helverson House invoices. We did have a 2.5-hour meeting with them, and he sent in some further information. And he did pay what he thought he paid the amount that was not, that he did not,
And he wasn't contesting.
testing, thank you. It's 9:30.
Yeah.
And so it's on the agenda to authorize the clerk to make whatever adjustments need to be made to the invoices. And there's more information, which I think everybody has. I personally found it a little hard to follow, but, and this should have been presented, but it is here now.
My computer died,
Uh-oh,
so I just didn't plug it in.
oh,
And so the battery's dead. But I didn't see any details on it on the web.
oh, wow,
You know, so it may or may not have been posted, which ones they contested or not. I don't know, did you guys?
I didn't see anything either. All I see is this summary schedule.
Yeah,
this stuff here. This color-coded chart.
was that the original one?
Was this the original one? I don't know,
In their
I don't know if you printed it out or I
was
printed it out for
remembering
you.
14, but
No, their e-packet, in the e-packet
Oh.
was just.
Oh, I don't know what's in the e-packet. This was, I figured I had this off the email and
No,
I was
ju- in
good.
the- I didn't print out all the other stuff they gave you before, I just printed out what they paid and what they paid it on. That's what was in the e-packet.
okay, yeah, we just looked at that. Yes, so they paid about 7,000.
They paid 7450.30. I don't know what's in the e-pack. I mean, I got,
That's all that's in the impact. is
This here?
that.
how about this color-coded deal?
No,
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 those were from before.
These color-coded ones?
yeah, that was,
You weren't at the, oh, that I didn't see.
No. What he showed up with, when he came in and we spent 2.5 hours with him,
right,
what he did was come in with a spreadsheet that was not given to us in advance, but was given to us at the meeting.
Right.
And here's mine, and I was taking notes as he was presenting and writing down why he was contesting it, the reasons why, and, trying to follow along with him. And at the end of that meeting, we said, and we talked about the buckets, and remember, we said, boy, let's get him in the buckets, and he argued with us for 10 minutes about who was gonna do it, but setting that aside, he did it and put it in.
Yeah,
I got this off a email or something,
he
or?
gave us they're in your packet on page 79, 80, and 81 is what he gave us.
Okay, so there's like 6 color-coded pages.
That must have been given to you ahead of time, because
Oh, that could have been off an email.
right,
Okay, that's where I got this
right.
from.
Yeah, yes, from his email, but what he turned into the board was a summary of all his bills.
That's
his-
this page here?
That is the third page, right. The first page is all the invoices that he was charged, the $465.45. And then their email saying they attached the spreadsheet, and then, his summary of all the invoices, amount disputed, settled, back and forth. That's what, and then there was a check for the 7,000.
This. This, right?
Right, yep,
Oops, sorry.
the microphone.
Yeah.
There's
The
a little
summary.
email. Yep, that's the third page, and then there's a little attached, their email saying attached is their spreadsheet and how they came up with that amount.
Right, and so
We did take the amount, thinking that you guys would talk about it.
then there's this. I thought
That was
this,
from our earlier meeting.
I don't think that this came over on an email. I don't think
Yeah,
this
That
was,
wasn't part of.
this
theirs.
wasn't part of the,
the
okay.
summary.
So this, what I'm waving around here is prepared by them. It was on an email. I had to be, because how else would I have it? I think it was forwarded by Karen. Printed out, I might have printed it out, staff might have printed it out for me. But it's his spreadsheet that puts his contested charges into the buckets that we talked about, okay?
Are we supposed to have that in our emails? Are we supposed to?
It's in your packet,
Right.
It's in the packet?
and your paper packet, yep.
The color-coded thing?
No, that was
This is all
earlier.
that's in my,
There's
Okay.
3 pages in your board packet. That's all they gave us, is those 3, the invoices, their little email, and their summary of accounts. How they came up with the 7,450.
Well, and I do note on their summary of accounts, invoice number 7564, they have disputed amount of $753. And when they were in talking to us, their disputed amount for that invoice was $433. So they added to it from when they came and talked to us. But we left that meeting, hey, we need this in buckets.
Right.
Okay, so that's, I mean, he sent over the buckets. Now, it didn't make the packet apparently, but he sent over the buckets. So, I suppose,
That's the only thing, well, the only thing that I was aware of, somehow I must have missed this in the packet. Oh, was it in the packet? That I didn't.
okay, I'm not sure what you're pointing at now on the computer
What you're
screen.
waving around.
Oh, what I'm waving around, okay. But you found it. Was it in the packet or not the
No.
packet? No, you found it on an email?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is what I'm
I
saying.
brought that
Yeah,
up
okay,
weeks ago, and
okay.
I still had it open because I knew it was for discussion.
Okay, and what's the date of the email? Since you had it open,
I didn't know, I saved the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay, got it. You saved the spreadsheet on your computer, not, the email's probably there somewhere, but yes, okay, got it. I thought you had the email open and you could just tell it, oh yeah, it's the email dated,
is there
whatever.
an amount on the email that would relate to, the, training?
Yeah, that's the buckets.
I don't
Yeah.
know which amount is that?
Well, here's a better summary.
Well, it's not in what, it's nothing in your packet. Not that sheet, there's nothing in there that, it just says amount disputed, settlement amount not disputed, total outstanding. It doesn't say why, it doesn't break down why these amounts are disputed. And from our meeting with him, remember, or them, it's not just Michael, but Joy was here.
Sidebar.
Hey, oh, guys, now I'm talking, she's talking, sorry.
I heard the question, but I knew the answer, so.
But there's supposed to be no sidebars. Now, where was I? Answering. Remember at that meeting, we left it, we weren't gonna decide because the direction of the board, and I think it was by consensus, that we wanted to see the amounts put into buckets and broken out. Okay, so that's where it is.
I was hoping to get a
So, for example, the training, you said, well, what is training? Well, it's on that spreadsheet. He has something marked training, and it's color coded, and
yeah. So I was supposed to keep our old paper.
well, this came in separately from the meeting, okay? This came in after the meeting.
This is what they said, this is what they felt that they owed. Now, I mean, I don't know if you're gonna call back in,
Was it distributed to the board members?
in the packet. Yes, the 3 pages they gave us, it's page 79, 80, and 81 in your packet. Page 79, 80, and 81 is what the Alexes gave us. The only thing that's not in there is a copy of the check, but if you want a copy of the check, I can get you a copy of the check.
And the spreadsheet,
No, they didn't give me a spreadsheet.
in the email, you sent it to us.
Probably previous to this. This is what they gave me for the board packet.
Oh, okay. There's a disconnect here, I think, in the sense that
They sent a.
they sent an
spread-
email, here's a spreadsheet, and then
And then they.
And
this
then
is-
they said,
this was the
you're on the
final.
agenda, what do you want in the board bracket? And this is what they sent.
Right.
So out of the 16,000 plus, that we had, they paid,
7,450 and 30 cents.
so there's 9,000 that they're still contesting.
Right.
No, 2,000 of that, we had agreed to split that one. So what they're contesting is 6,827.65.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
it
they
says that in
said,
there,
they
yep,
agreed to the split.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what was the 2,187 for?
Half of the Fuchs bill.
One invoice that we agreed to split.
Oh, yeah, you weren't here that meeting, were you?
The attorney that represented Board of Appeals,
Oh, okay.
John
So
Fuchs.
you split that bill between us and, okay.
By consensus. Oh, yeah, I see that, okay. I'm looking at the emails right now.
Right, right.
I don't know when that came in, not necessarily, but.
On the third sheet, too. I think it's this one. No. I didn't look at the emails.
Is it critical that we do this before the end of the year? We
No,
could table
no,
this.
there's
If
no
people
rush.
If people are, you
There's no
know,
rush on this.
My
But-
understanding when the Alexes were here was that if they paid what they felt was not disputed, then it wasn't gonna go on their tax bill.
It would have been, no matter what, it would have been too late to get it on a tax bill this year.
But
right,
you're
that was the deal, that
talked
they,
about that.
That was the
right,
deal, so
that was the deal, they were gonna pay what they thought was, they owe, uncontested, they paid that to keep everything off their tax bill,
so we can
so that we can, yes.
still work.
Now, for us to get back to the detail of what the contested ones are, we need to look at the original spreadsheet by invoice that they had and come up with the same totals
That they did.
that they did, and then weigh in on what those specific invoices were for.
Right. And I don't know if you want to do that at a workshop or with them or however, but I just want to let you know there's no rush.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would say. I would want to do that on my own, and I didn't see enough in that, in the packet, because I don't get the paper, to be able to do that.
Right.
But now realizing that, well, I have the original paperwork, I can do it.
Yeah, so we should just table this because you're not going to authorize anything at this point.
Well, I think that,
I'll make a motion to table.
okay. I found the email. November 23rd.
Carol, there's a motion on the floor,
Any discussion on the,
but there's no second. I'm sorry, sir.
there's no second? I thought, I heard
Yeah,
a second.
I heard a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
And under discussion, I announced that on November 23rd. Sorry.
That's where I found it too.
Oh, you found it as well. Yes, and everybody's on there, all the board members are on there, from Karen Shu. And it came, of course, originated from the Alexes. So, any further discussion on a motion to table?
Do we need to specify table it to when?
Well, we didn't on the other one, but sure.
I mean, I don't know if we need to or not. But
No, you don't need to. I mean, it's pretty easy to get things on the agenda. Just hit the deadline in the ordinance and you can put things on the agenda.
What I think I'll do is I'll put a whole packet together, email it to you, and then if you feel it's ready for discussion or however you want to handle it.
Right, the board made it very clear when we met with them
Right.
that they wanted to see additional information. You did in particular. And whether this November 23rd email suffices for all that information, then we'll be ready to go. If it's not going to suffice, then we ought to get back to them and say, this is what we need. And
Do we know-
you can send that to Karen and Karen can ask them.
Do we know when our next staff meeting is?
Well,
That's
it's
on the agenda
for
for-
the end of the last Thursday in January.
Okay, because that's really what I was putting it off, in my mind, why I was putting it off is first for me to understand what these invoices that they're contesting were for, and then for us to be able to talk to, like Attorney Macy, or, on the billing practices and the like, to get a reading on that.
Well, so maybe in February, after you had a chance to, if you do have a staff meeting in January, then after you listen to John, then, and have all their information, then it'd be easier for you to look through the
Yeah.
items and make an informed decision.
Right.
Right, they did present a lot of information when they were here for 2.5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And they did present,
I was here for that same amount of time, I think.
and they did say why they were contesting each one of those on a line-by-line basis, so.
So at least in discussion, I'll put, if the board doesn't mind, under the discussion that the board would like to discuss this in staff and possibly bring it back in February.
Right.
Just so you have a time, is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's fine, because I would probably give a different answer in January than I would in February after we've talked to Macy.
Because you guys had a lot of questions about legal stuff.
Right,
So we got a motion to table, right?
right,
Yes.
and a second, and a note on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Fourth company, update the stormwater management plan.
President Fortner and board members, this is the proposal that Andy came in at a staff meeting and a board meeting to update our 2008 stormwater plan into today's standards.
What did we put in the budget for this? Or no, it's stormwater, it's gonna come out of stormwater.
Right, we have the money for it.
Right, it's in the stormwater, we didn't budget for it. per
Right,
se.
because,
Right. It's from the stormwater fund, we're only budgeting out of general fund.
right.
Well, yeah, project improvement, I guess, too.
Do we know what this is gonna cost?
Yeah, it says,
23?
yep,
3,200. Estimate.
And October of '08 was the last time.
08, you said?
that's the date of the,
Oh.
Needs an update, so the only question is the cost, or you bid it out, or whatever. Or you don't do it this year, I guess. I mean, that's always an option, too.
right? I would, if the board wouldn't mind, I'd just put it contingent on review, legal, not legal review, contingent on, I would like to see what's left over and what truly John needs for the 2022 stormwater budget before. So would you mind if we table this to the next meeting? I just want to make sure.
Make a motion to table.
Is that okay, Carol?
Yeah, that's okay. That's the question I wrote down. What did we put in the budget? And
Yeah.
I know we didn't formally budget it, but if we do need to review the stormwater fund budget to see what's
Because
in there.
we spend a lot on other issues on related, floodplain, and I just want to double check before the board authorizes to make sure.
Okay.
And John's got enough money. Dan, you made the motion, I'm sorry, and who seconded that?
Marie,
It's Marie? Okay, thank you.
further discussion? All in favor of table?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's tabled. Bartender's license.
President Fortner and board members, everything is in order for Brandy Hawthorne's bartender's license. She's done her classes, she's paid all her fees, she's passed all of her criminal background checks, so she's perfectly ready for your approval.
Where is she working?
It ain't heaven, but when you get our operator's license, it's not subject to a place. It's all of Vernon. But that's where it ain't heaven. That's our biggest customer.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion? No record.
Now, we still had that policy, I guess, of making them come in if they had a record?
Yes,
Only if they had a record.
Only if they
Right.
had a record.
otherwise you don't want to see them.
Right,
Right.
and that's
We
been on
don't-
our staff agenda to see if we wanted to change anything
If-
there.
Right, that's, okay.
Including some municipalities say if they have no record, the staff approves them.
Right.
Right, Karen?
Yes,
So, that was on the staff, has been on the staff as well.
Has been, I don't think we've ever gotten to it yet, though, but
Well, that possibly.
that may be.
That possibly is true. I can't remember. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item L, appointment of a deputy treasurer. I understand from our treasurer that she is no longer available, so there's no action needed. Next item is set the date for the staff meeting to January 27, 2021, which is that fourth Thursday in January. 1:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30,
whatever is good for the board.
whatever is.
I was there, what date did you say?
This would be Thursday, January 27, 2021. I always like to say 1:30 in case someone has a lunch deal or engagement or seminar or something. Macy's racing back or, you know. Good on your schedules?
Yep.
So let's set it. Do we need a motion to set it?
No, you can do it by consensus.
do
I
it
just
by
didn't know
consensus.
what time you wanted to start.
January 27th here, 1:30 PM. Good.
1:30,
Yep, 1:30.
it's fine.
Fine? Works, Dan, Jim? Okay, by consensus. Correspondence and announcement, village board and village trustees. We'll go in reverse order. We'll start with trustee Dashik, you know. I'll even go last.
I don't really have any announcements, other than I'd like to wish everyone Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and be safe, and enjoy your time with family.
I ditto that. Merry Christmas to all, stay safe out there, and enjoy the little one.
Trustee DeGrave?
Again, wish everybody Merry Christmas. As a matter of fact, I wore my Christmas tie to bring a little Christmas to the board meeting tonight.
Aw.
Did it for a treat.
No candy canes?
Second of all, just one, I've been hearing from residents a little bit on our waste management, garbage collection again. So I just wanted to bring that up. They obviously had a a light day today because nobody had garbage cans out because of the winds. Garbage guy whipped through pretty fast. However, the complaint is that now they're leaving all the lids up or off the top. They don't know how to complain about that. They've been trying to call and they can't seem to get through. So that's all I wanted to report.
Trustee Slaney.
Ditto. This is the, first of all, yes, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Be safe and all that. I know Thanksgiving is already over and done with, but this is really the season to be thankful. And there are a lot of people in this country that are in pretty bad shape. We've got all the hurricane disasters and storms. Boys, some states just can't cut a break this year. So if you got it in your heart and in your pockets, find a way to donate something to somebody. There's a lot of good agencies out there where your money actually gets to where you want it to go to. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. I have several things. One, I'd just like to point out we are part of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and read your magazine. It's I find it very informative, and I'll just point out one little article about the benefits of being a village. There is a bill pending that's being negotiated between the Towns Association and the Wisconsin League of Municipalities called LRB 4995, dealing with incorporation and annexation. And one of the things they're going to propose to repeal is annexations across county lines. So,
Oh, boy.
so my point is, our friends to the south, who we ask several times, but they never followed through. So we have no border agreement with them. And now they probably wish they did. Now that we're a village. So laws do change. And that's why these cooperative plans that we entered into as part of the incorporation process, regardless of whether we got to incorporate or not, were a good idea. And the one we didn't do, mostly because they didn't, despite us asking and asking, didn't follow through. It had been really in their benefit had they done that. But I just wanted to point that out. Read your magazines, keep up on it. I did have a call earlier this week with the new village president of Waukesha, who was appointed to replace retiring Mike Doerr, or retiring. He moved to Florida, I understand. So,
Yeah.
They are still interested in pursuing at least the concept of and study of whether we call this a combined, a consolidated, or a joint fire department. So I thought that was helpful. The fire department, Chief Feldy and Assistant Chief Hayes are trying to arrange that meeting as our last shared services meeting, we left it. The next step is to study the capital equipment and provide some input on how this thing would be governed. And so I'm hoping that continues. Mr. Stiegler over in Village of Waukesha, it's pretty clear it's just a temporary, he's the interim maybe, I don't know. He's the village president, but he has no intention of going past April, the election day in April. So stay tuned on that. We did talk about shared services in the Village of Big Bend. Other items that are forthcoming from those shared services include some type of road maintenance agreement and the reconstruction of Sherry Avenue. So that will be coming up here in January. And also in January, we are going to have meetings with the Village of Big Bend regarding the landfill, the old landfill on 164 and Edgewood Avenue. And so that's going to be coming up in 2022, unfortunately, in my view. Waste management, yeah, they missed me today. So anybody who says, well, it was a breeze, they missed my recycling. I don't know what they're gonna do about the lids up, but they blow up. It's pretty routine. But otherwise, family gatherings, stay safe. New strain of COVID. We've had COVID issues here in Vernon. Vernon averages about 30 cases a week, new ones, positives that we know about. So the virus is out there and everybody needs to take their precautions, whether they're vaccinated or not, or boosted or not. Otherwise, I hope everybody stays safe and enjoys their family time and has a very Merry Christmas. And I suppose I always have to say a generic happy holidays, but administrator's report.
I just wanted to let the board know that I was working with the auditors in the county on getting the tax bills out, which were mailed on the 13th of December. I've been training our new treasurer on inputting his tax payments, and he's got 2 in. I provided the board with the 2021 municipal tax levy worksheet and a 2021 statement of taxes. The auditor has just started our 2021 audit, so I've been busy with Howard on that. I've also had to register the town of Vernon and the village of Vernon with the DUNS, SAN.gov, and FEMA.go because the federal government doesn't recognize the village of Vernon after all the emails and letters as an actual village. So I have someone from the federal government that I sent some documentation over, and she guarantees that within 2 to 4 weeks, we will get our village status from the federal government. In the meantime, registering all those entities takes about 6 hours apiece, so we're registered as the town of Vernon, it's Vernon, Town of, and Vernon Village of on all those entities, just in case the fire department wants to apply for grants. They can only apply under the town until we get our village status. Let's see. Oh, and lastly, I wanted to extend myself, my staff, and the DPW staff our deepest condolences to Mark and Ryan Janik for their loss of Karen. Karen was a deputy of mine since 2013 and fought a very tough battle with COVID and died last week. But I just want to send my deepest condolences to the family. And that's it. Thank you.
It's very, very tragic. Other and horrible. Waukesha County Sheriff's report. Sheriff was here earlier. We heard from her. Ward's replacement for the evening anyway. Treasurer's report. The treasurer couldn't make it today. You see his report in the packet. He did have an email because I had asked him to comment on the plan for tax collection and I think you forwarded the email to everybody, so you do have that somewhere. The tax collection plan was to have deputy clerks receipt the tax payments and myself, along with deputy treasurer, input the information into the Banyan system. I did talk to Terry too about the fact that we are going to and Karen, about the refund.
Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
the refunds, they're formulating a plan. Yes, you
Right.
didn't comment on that, but when I looked at the tax bill, the tax bills are up on the county website. So I looked at Vernon tax bills, and if most everybody's taxes, unless they were reassessed, which it wasn't a reassessment year, so the only reassessment people would be like building permits, they built a new garage or whatever, addition, remodel, our taxes are down $58, $59. And this is due to the lottery credits. And so as a result, anybody who pays with a mortgage escrow check based on 2020 taxes is going to be due a refund.
Gonna have a lot of refunds.
And we're going to
So you
have,
can have a bundle of them.
and I sent an email last night, and here's an idea, and I think, I'm not sure if we can do these in 2 batches, it might be 3 or 4 batches, but I
Right.
think the plan is that we would just run APs just with those, special run, and, you
And then
know,
the normal bills.
and then the normal bills separately, so that we can segregate, because the tax refunds could be in the hundreds.
They
In the
will be in the
hundreds.
hundreds.
We've read it that once before, I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, there was one year where hundreds and
It
hundreds.
was- Yeah, a whole boatload. I don't remember what the issue was.
So, you know, lottery credit went up $63, our garbage went up $3.50, and so the net is $59. It's to a resident. So,
So we're just,
How come they're on the county website and we don't have them yet? Usually,
because they're in the United States Postal Service.
as of the 13th?
Yes,
they're in the mail,
they're in the mail.
Oh,
And I do.
literally.
that's a scary.
I mean, I did authorize, the county gives you that option, and I mean, we get the tax bills too, we can put them on our website, but they have to go through 3,000 bills, where you go on the county's website, you put your address in and you get your bill, you know?
Yep.
Besides, it bogs down our website, so that's a nice feature where people can just Google Waukesha County tax listing. It takes you right to the county site, you put your address in, and it says view your bill, you click on the bill, and the person has their tax bill.
And then they can go back 1 year, 2 years, whatever
Yes,
they want.
yes, yes.
Has
20
the
years,
history.
And for some
30
of,
years.
I know, it's a
You can
long
go
time.
back a lot.
Yeah.
for some of our residents that aren't very computer literate, they've called us and we've downloaded grandma's bill or grandpa's bill, and they're real happy.
Yeah. So I have a question about Terry's job. I don't know who to.
Well, on the agenda, it's his report under plan for tax collection, so
Well,
he's not here, so I'm
it-
not sure you're asking a question to
Well,
someone who's not here,
I'm
but,
gonna ask it though, because you guys might know. As we went through this tonight, as far as wages, you've got your deputy clerks starting at 15 and a half, whatever it is. And my understanding was, when I wasn't here, so I didn't have personal knowledge of it, but, they're paying whoever's helping him $18 an hour.
Yeah,
but
'cause
he has nobody to help him.
yeah, he said he couldn't get anybody.
There is no deputy treasurer.
So we don't have a deputy right now.
Correct. Right now.
Well, I wish he was here, because I'm disappointed he wasn't, because I do have questions for him.
Well, I think you can contact him direct.
Yeah, call him, Marie.
Yeah.
He's here every day now.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
He's got
Yeah, I
his own
talked to him
desk?
this morning, for example, or this afternoon, I mean, or yesterday.
No, when people come in, they stamp them, and, you know, so that so he's not doing that. He's just entering them.
And he's taking the money to the bank.
Yes, there's no tax money. He's taking it every day. And when people come, you guys know, when they come to pay their tax bill, they ask 4,000 other questions, so,
Right,
you know.
right.
You know how that goes.
They save him up for a year.
Right, then they complain.
And is Citizens doing our?
Yes,
doing
Citizens
collections?
Bank,
Yeah,
right.
Right, that's,
They're a big help, Citizens
yeah,
Bank.
'cause they'll take off a bunch of it.
And people are already going on point and pay. We've got people paying online with e-checks and debit checks, and so, I mean, it's coming in slow. Next week will be nuts. Yeah. Yeah, so if you talk to your friends, they were mailed on the 13th.
So that's the plan for tax collection, as I understand it, and refunds, I guess, is part of tax collection, although.
Yeah, we just want to make sure.
Terry, the Banyan
We
system
just want to
kicks
make
them
sure they
out,
clear the bank before you guys
Right.
authorize a refund.
and the clerk's office runs the check.
Right.
So the Banyan, but the refund amount starts with the treasurer.
Right. That's correct.
Right. So they'll work it out. You know, I wanted to make sure we had a plan to, to deal with this
So he's gonna handle the whole operation.
as it stands now.
Well, we're talking dog license.
Oh, we do that, Marie. We've always done the dog license. He doesn't do any of that. He does just the taxes. Yeah, because people come in all hours for their dog license and hobby kennel, so we do all that. So he just does the taxes, but that's gonna be.
Okay. Further questions under reports? Finances, accounts payable.
Another issue.
Another issue, accounts payable.
The only thing I have is, I read the email that, that the treasurer sent, and he said that his mileage is 3.6 or 3.8.
Okay, can we just stop there just for a second?
Yep.
That's not on accounts payable, that's on a manual check, so let's
Okay.
hold that question. Hold that question for manual checks. Staying on accounts payable, I had two questions. The Waukesha County Treasurer, the 2019 tax refunds, I guess I'm not following that.
This is the first month
You had the same question?
that,
Okay.
those are from 2019, and this is the first month we're allowed to get them off of our books, give them to the county treasurer, and it goes to, the county notifies the people that they have money coming to them.
Okay, so these are uncashed
Yes,
checks
yes,
from 2019
yes.
that we've contacted, sent them replacement, whatever.
Right,
And it's now unclaimed property.
right.
And instead of sending them to the state,
They should never have been to the state.
they should have gone to the Waukesha County Treasurer because they're tax refunds.
Right.
As opposed to a general refund for
Managed forest lands.
soccer refunds or
DNR,
something.
yeah.
Okay, so that's what that is, all right. And then, so these checks are voided in our system at this point?
Not yet, and they're not voided until you approve them going, once you approve them going to the county, then we'll void them
Okay,
in our system.
okay, so we don't need a separate motion, that's
No,
automatic
no,
voided, I
right.
would
Once
think.
the board approves that money to go to the county, then they're voided in our system.
Okay. And then the other thing, on Waukesha County, in the payables, this is for the Register of Deeds, this thing here?
That's part of my mileage.
Oh,
I'm showing
okay,
you-
the
I'm-
$90,
the
oh, this is,
documentation, yeah.
this is, okay.
Every time I went up
Because it was like,
there.
what is the starting balance, negative 90? What is this?
Those
This
are the
is-
dates I went
This
up
is a receipt, this is a, well, not a receipt, but a
When I filed it,
documentation,
yeah.
right. This is documentation for mileage, got it.
And I don't have that, where is that?
I think it was part of the APs, I
Yeah,
thought.
It's in the
I
APs.
have this from the mileage.
And then behind it is a bunch of other documents.
Yep. And that's what I was wondering, what are these other documents?
Yeah, it's all back up.
That's this,
Right.
what I was asking for.
And then when I went to the post
Because
office.
there's a bunch of dates and,
Yep.
yep, okay, I got it. Okay. Got it. Those are my questions.
So on, I do have one question on your mileage, Karen, a couple questions really. On January 27th, are you saying you made 2 trips to the county? Because you have documented twice.
I see one at the Register of Deeds on January 27th, I think. Oh, no, where is it? Shoot, Karen.
For the mouse also.
Yeah, to pick up the software, there's more mileage involved in picking up election software. Besides going up to the county, I had to, pick up another piece of software from a different part of the county for my election software.
Oh, where is that located?
On the opposite side of the county site. You know where the
It's
sheriff's
the
office? Yeah,
courthouse building though, right?
right, yeah. And then if I have, what I try to do, if I'm doing something election-wise, sometimes in our WisVote software, if there is an issue in regards to the software regarding an address, I'll check that address too. So I just add that, but I didn't. I can give you the address of place that I checked. But if there's a geogrid that's off on the maps, it has to be documented. I can't do it by guessing.
Still not following. I understand you had to drive to the backside of the courthouse, but
And probably check a address for my WisVote software. If it's an additional amount of my county, what is an additional 2 miles or 3 miles?
Mile, isn't it?
1 mile, that's probably what it is.
Well,
it's $24.50 and $25.50 for the same day for mileage.
Oh, that, why, one is it for election, and then I had to go up with, a deed restriction later in the day. I mean, I didn't know I was gonna get that.
that was your question. Why'd you go up to the county twice? Is that what you were asking,
Right.
really? Okay, got it.
If something has to be filed, then it has to be filed, I gotta file it.
Right.
You ever send the girls up there?
No, they don't get mileage.
How about for the Wisconsin Towns Association Convention? You're still a treasurer for that?
No, I got a free, $150 freebie to go to the convention. So I turned in my hotel bill previously, but
Yeah, I understand, but
I've attended that as the clerk administrator, it has nothing to do with any position I hold. It's part of my education. I had 7 hours of election training on that day. If you want my certification from the state, I'd be happy to give it to you.
your certification should always be submitted with this,
Why?
your mileage.
Well,
Just proof that you win.
it's part of the new book.
I'll send that to you. And I'll show the agenda from the Towns Association where it says State of Wisconsin certification.
Yeah, and we all know the new book. This goes for me too. 60 days to submit your mileage.
And I did write that on my,
60, it says.
That's what you made me change it.
Yeah, that's the IRS rule.
I don't know about that.
I thought you guys wanted it monthly.
I wanted it monthly.
Well, that's what you're gonna get from me.
Documentation.
Just because the book says within 60 days doesn't mean you can't submit it the next day. No, if they buy something from the town, for the town, it's right away then. It's like
Yeah.
5 business days. But that means they're buying a tool or something.
Right.
Not
Or
mileage
nut
or,
and bolt or whatever.
right. Okay, yeah, further questions? Dan, you have,
Just on your mileage, Karen, I noticed you have it broken down into a lot of different accounts. Why is that?
Because it's not all clerk mileage. If it's related to plan commission or elections or education, it goes into all different accounts.
different budget lines, right?
Right.
Okay.
The check is all made up. It's not-
I know.
This is, it's for accounting.
Yeah, I mean, if you want somebody else to handle all the zoning
When it
violations,
comes back to budgets, who's responsible for the budget? And so if it's going to another department or something, that's not right. But, I don't know, maybe it's all okay, it's all under administration.
Well, under elections, that's under clerk administrator, plan commission, clerk administrator, general government, clerk administrator, right? So it's all per department. Right? And it's per department broken down under those categories. Line items for mileage.
Yeah, because it's not fair to charge it to all my clerk administrator budget, it's my. Why? Because that has nothing, yeah, it is, unless you want me to put that under all my categories, because all those zoning and planning violations, that's all my responsibilities, all the,
Well, we need to, okay, we charge a bunch of fees for zoning, plan commission. That's why those are separate budget items, because we have to keep track of our expenses. Elections, we've always kept track of those.
right,
We have people calling up, well, how much does that election cost us? $1 a voter, at least, maybe more now.
it used to be reported to the state, remember?
Yeah, it used to, that's right, back in the day, right, back in the days,
Yeah, they
right?
don't ask for it anymore, but they used to.
So that's, I mean, they're separate line items. So,
So are they separate, like you have plan commission mileage and that goes in there then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then election expenses, right,
and then general mileage.
Yep.
You know, the newsletter,
right,
right. Stormwater meeting, maybe you put that in stormwater, but
Yep.
it's in general now, but it's
right.
only
But it should be
$13.
stormwater.
Yeah, like there's a seminar coming up in January that I'll have to go to. I believe it's at the county. That would be charged to stormwater, because that's really a stormwater expense. John will go too. But he doesn't get mileage because he has a truck,
a town truck, a village truck.
a village truck, yes.
So hop on board, it'll take.
If I can, then I'll go with John.
We used to do that. Doug, can we use the car? And you go, sure.
Well, if he's going to the same meeting, it'd be nice if we could just drive together. So,
Okay. Got 'em? Got your questions answered? So we're looking for a motion to approve batch 2021-1216 in the amount of $16,285.71. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the motion passes 3-2. Manual checks. We have two manual checks. As I understand it, one is City of Waukesha mailed to the wrong address. I think it's in Never Neverland. I don't even know if they ever got it, did they?
no, they did not.
And they signed an affidavit, I think.
Yes,
I saw something in here, I
from
thought.
Ellen, yes.
And so this is for, geez, we owed this money for a while. This is for
The
the
shredder?
big
The big shredder.
brush grinder. Yeah. So there's one of them. And the other is our treasurer's mileage. And he's not here, but you had a question, Marie.
Because on his email, he said, he rounds it up, it was 3.8 or 3.6, and he rounds it up to 4. Now, I remember not that long ago, that somebody on his board would have got their head chopped off. So,
Did.
yeah, so should we take the actual number, or do we round up or round down? Because it makes a difference if you got a lot of mileage.
Well, and I asked him that question via email because I thought that one of the board members may raise it, so that's, and he gave a response.
Step ahead.
He gave a response. So,
And his response was,
Is it really?
well, here's the IRS rule. You're at your place of employment, you're on business going to another location. You get reimbursed mileage if you have an IRS policy in place for reimbursements. And our new manual makes that very clear, by the way. Then the IRS says, well, you get it to go back to your place of employment if you go back. If you don't go back, instead go home, and I'm assuming he's going home, then you don't get your mileage from that last stop to your home unless it's a lot more than going back to the office. That's the IRS rule. So he's charging one way because he's going home afterwards, and it's probably only a couple miles to his house, I think.
But he's still charging more than what he said he would.
Okay, but so that's the question about
Okay.
the one-way versus two-way. Okay, the question of what you're raising is, when I raised it by email was, I just look at Google Maps, it's 3.5 miles. That's what Google says. I don't know what it is exactly. I'm not gonna go measure it personally. So I asked him, where'd the 4 come from if it's, Google says 3.5? And his response was, as you said, right, he said my odometer was 3.8 and I just rounded it to 4. So I don't know if there's any rules. We're talking about tenths of miles. And if you're rounding,
Ray has something to say about it.
okay, well, if you're rounding up and down, so you're round down on some of them, round up, mathematically, you're gonna be about even.
You didn't round down ever.
But that would be
In this case.
in this case, that would be this case where, and we just saw Karen Shu's report, she's got them in tenths, mine didn't. I rounded, but some went up, some went down, But, and I don't think our new policy says in tenths.
No.
My IRS takes miles. They don't require you to do tenths.
Terry's check here. Did you get it?
I don't know, I'm not looking at the check.
That Terry's check, Terry's,
Let's check.
oh, well, it may not be cut. This is an approval of a manual check.
Well, the manual check was, but I don't know what she's got there.
Oh, you've got the actual physical checks. Okay, when you said I checks, I'm like, well, I don't know what he checks, okay.
My mistake.
Oh, for the record, she's got it.
Okay, all right. Okay, so those are the two manual checks. I don't know what, I don't know what to say about rounding. People can chime in on that.
We should have human resources with that.
We can.
I don't know, because I just remember they made such a huge big deal out of it.
I used to turn mileage into the IRS and they never questioned what I put down. But I had to have a very detailed record of where I went and but.
Right, and he's got a
Right.
date and where he went. Obviously, this is part of his job duties, so.
I'm really not picking on him, I just remember Lorraine getting nailed. Sorry.
I would actually prefer to see it just based on Google Map mileage. If it comes out to 3.5 or 3 point, that's what you put down. To me, it's just as easy as to put down 3.5 as it is to 4.0,
Right.
It's not a big deal. And I don't know that the amount of mileage adds up to all that much anyhow, but, because this is like for the whole year.
It's $5
Well,
at 3.8.
Yeah.
Google Maps would be $10. No, $12. So. We need to approve manual checks.
did we have a motion yet?
Not yet.
Oh, I'll make that motion.
Manual checks in the amount of $4,328.80.
Correct.
Is there a second? Well, I'll second it. Any discussion? 10:30. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Dan? No, okay. I didn't hear you say that. I saw a hand raised, so that's good enough for me. Motion carries 3-2. Trustee,
No, 4-1.
oh, sorry, 4-1.
I was opposed also.
Yeah, you're the only
No,
one.
you're the only, Dan, Trustee DeGrave
I approve the.
voted to approve. Okay, 4-1, sorry. I misspoke, 3-2.
That $4,200 check as an outstanding item like over a month ago.
Right. Well, it takes a while to get affidavits and so on. That's one less outstanding check. So long as they cash this one. This is going to the right address too, yeah. Okay, we are on November 2021 ACH transactions. Let's start here. In the amount of, what, 34,015.85? No.
109,428.04.
Oh, there it is. Is it,
That's payroll and, ACH.
okay, and this is, are we on, it's October and November, isn't it?
That's just November.
Just November, okay, so the little highlight thing, it says October, it really should say November, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And the November bank statements. Okay, motion, we're looking for a motion to approve the November ACH transactions, in the amount of 109,428.04, which is the payroll and the other ACHs, right?
Yes. that is
Okay,
In the packet. Info or accounts payable?
It's in the info, and then it tells you refer to, because Terry put all the tax, the bank statements in your packet.
so I'll make that motion to approve the November ACH transactions in the amount of 109,428.04.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So we are on November 2021 AR aging report. That's for your information. And then we've got November 2021 financial reports for your information. I did have one question about the tax bank account, but I noticed a charge through it and two charges through it. And we're supposed to keep $1,000 minimum, but there was two charges, one of which was a fee for going below $1,000. And it was supposed to be kept at 1,000, and it was a tax account, money in for taxes, money out for settlements and refunds. So I don't know how that happened. The deposit slips got charged to it, but that could have been paid out of the general checking account.
$76 for the.
Well, the deposit slips we'd have to pay for no matter what. But because the deposit slips were paid from that account, it went below the minimum, and then there's a $10 service fee on it.
I'll have him call the bank and see if they'll reverse it. They should.
They should. And the point of this account isn't the point of the account is for balancing? You keep 1,000 in, money comes in, money comes out, but at the end, it should be $1,000 plus whatever pennies of interest that we possibly earn now, 6 cents or whatever it is. Isn't that the point of the account? And the only point of the account? So that's what it,
That's a self-imposed rule, is that?
That's the
Yeah, well-
bank. It's the bank's rule.
Oh, it's the bank's.
bank's rule, yeah,
Required if they have a minimum
Okay.
yeah.
of 1,000.
Right, because remember, we wanted it 0, and then they let us do 100, and they said, no, 1,000.
When we wanted interest on our tax money,
You're right,
they said then you have to keep $1,000 balance.
right.
Otherwise, they
See,
weren't
that
gonna give
makes-
us any
okay,
interest.
That makes
And we're
sense.
gonna pay, and they're gonna pay us interest at our regular general
Right.
account, which is 15 basis points. I check that every month.
Previous, it was nothing.
Right, previously it
That's how
was
cheap
nothing.
they are.
Yeah, whoops. But that was my only question there, if Terry could take care of it, and I would restore it to $1,000 so we don't get charged again.
Well, it's got, it's got
Now it does.
60,000
Right.
now, so you're good.
Right, but it's supposed to be at the 1,000 so we can balance it more easily. Okay. Minutes, November 17th, 2021. I had some changes, I think clerk's office made them, but not on that one, so I think those were fine. I gotta find my minutes. Here they are. On the 17th? I don't think so on the 17th. That was the meeting with,
Oh,
yeah, it was just,
it was the-
just discuss the invoices, right?
They were sent to the board.
Right.
You're-
So I'll make a motion to approve Thursday, November 17th, special board meeting. Minutes? Second, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on those? One page. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have to abstain.
Oh, yeah, you weren't there. One abstention, sorry. November 18th board meeting. There I had some changes, I think they were all made, and they were sent.
Yes.
Everybody see them? Okay. Any other changes that you might have seen? I think
I didn't have,
your name was misspelled, but I think they
Yeah.
got that one. But on one of them, I can't remember which one. So I'll make a motion to approve Thursday, November 18th, 2021 minutes, village board minutes, Vernon Village Board meeting minutes. Is there a second?
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You weren't there for that either?
Yes, yes. Right in the minutes, Marie Kumarshad had excused absence.
I got it.
Then we are on to December 2nd. Just let me check those changes. You did change the date at the top. Yeah, I had some changes there. Everybody saw the changes? So we are looking for a motion to approve the Thursday, December 2nd, 2021 Village of Vernon board meeting minutes. And I will make that motion. Is there a second? I thought they were,
And they were emailed.
and they were emailed, and the changed version was emailed. The changes are mostly just typos and fixing, although there was one missing motion with regards to accounts payable. Remember that first motion failed?
Yeah.
And I think Sue Fisher did that meeting, and she's in the minutes, posted by Susan Fisher. Yep. So I'll make a motion to, oh, I made that motion. Did we have a
did.
second? Did you do it?
I think I did.
Jim, trustee Solani
If
seconded.
not, I will.
Any further discussion on those minutes as changed? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's see. Hang on. No, you had an excused absence December 2nd. Right, that's right. You missed the special meeting and then the November meeting and the December meeting. And you're back now. Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Didn't we do
voted
that already?
Oh, yeah, and abstained. Well, then, I thought you were under discussion. Was I there? I thought it looked like more discussion. And one abstention. Announcement of next meeting dates. Guess what? We're in 2022, although the agenda doesn't reflect that. Our regular board meetings are January 6th and 2022. Plan Commission, it's joint meeting, you think?
No, it's not. It's fine.
Just Plan Commission. January 12, 2022, we've got staff. We set that date at January 27. Staff.
Nobody's coming back. Does the board have to be there?
Staff at 1:30 on January 27th. Oh, is he back on?
Yeah, because remember the fire department? At the time,
Yeah, I talked to Alex about that.
he has have any issues.
Right, I talked to him about that and why. Yeah, we had,
We only have to.
we had the Newman Development Team in, and we had the board listen to it because it was a larger subdivision development. It was going to take, I can't rattle them off, but Sean rattled them off at the meetings, all the things that we would have to do to get to the finish line if that was going to go through, including discussions about, you know, because it's part in the village of McWanago. And we had a good discussion, then we left it with certain items, but I don't know that the board,
Contingent on fire department
fire,
review,
right,
which Alex is fine with it. But I don't know if you want the board coming, put Newman on the beginning of the agenda.
they have
Do
the-
they need, I don't know, it's a,
Because really, the only real issue was the length of that cul-de-sac,
right,
whether he could get in there with his vehicles and still be able to turn around.
right.
it's up to you. I mean, that's the only item the board would, all the other items are only planned.
Yeah, it's hate to bring them down when they can watch it on YouTube,
Or they can watch it anytime on YouTube.
anytime on YouTube. Just for that, if that's the only item. They were down here anyway in December.
To hear the majority of it.
Yeah, to hear the
only-
majority of it and to do the rezoning request in the public hearing.
Right.
So the board was here anyway, and at that point, they might as well have stayed, is the way I was
And the
thinking.
only reason we're discussing it is to see if this is a joint meeting.
Right.
And we're saying no.
And we're saying no at this point. Right, right, that's the only reason. And then, if we needed to go into closed session, but as far as I'm concerned, we don't. So,
Motion to adjourn?
is there a second? It was tied. We'll leave that up to the clerk to decide. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned, 10:40.
I need signatures on this resolution. Did you guys approve the fee schedule? Do something what? Oh,
I mean, I wouldn't take it out of the village fund, we'd have to all put it in.
Oh.
Or if Karen's gonna do something with the girls, are you Karen?
you mean like flowers or something? I don't think Mark, I'll find out, but I don't think, yeah, well, they're waiting to see when they can cremate her. And then based on her cremation, he's gonna do the service. I'll find out and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Would you guys?
I still didn't hear you.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, sure you would have been.
You want me to sign it, Carl? No, maybe so.
What did we get, fees?
Industry.
Yes, no, what?
I will, if you will.